My friend says caffeine's a drug. I said, oh, tell your friend, fuck you.
I don't want to be your buddy, Rick. Just want a little breakfast.
And welcome to Breakfast Punx, a podcast about weird shit, DIY punk and trashy movies, brought to you by Shamsy Roasters and Deadbeat Donuts. From Hastings, I'm Siobhan.
And I'm Dave, and on this episode, which is number 18, we're going to be talking about Devo, and we're going to be reviewing the film Cradle of Fear from 2001.
But we'll start with a song, and this song is by a band called Stay Put. The song is called Crush. It's from their new 7-inch Orange, which is out now on Crew Cuts Records. So this is Stay Put with Crush.
Everyone, and the highlights of the news this Thursday.
Breaking news is part of this job.
You are fake news.
This is what's happening in your world tonight.
It's a fucking news.
My first piece of news is about Kathleen Roberts, who is the reincarnation of Marilyn Monroe, who has recently married the ghost of Michael Jackson.
Fan-fucking-tastic. Where do they live? What's going on?
I tell you what, the plot thickens as time goes on, but let me give you the original tabloid report, which is that Kathleen Roberts has opened up about her relationship with the King of Pop in an online article.
Haven't they all now he's dead? Oh dear. Was it a good one? Is it a good one?
Well,
a good relationship?
They've broken up since.
Oh.
But we'll get to that.
Okay.
They apparently met after he died, and he enjoys her childlike personality, small hands and feet. She claims.
I bet he does.
She claims that Jackson's ghostly presence doesn't have sex with her. However, he likes to use her earthly body to dance, sing, and eat.
Eats her body?
No. So
to go out for food?
Sort of, yes. She's hosting.
Okay.
She believes that she's hosting the ghost. She's both Marilyn Manson reincarnated, but whilst being
Marilyn Monroe.
Not Marilyn Manson. She's both Marilyn Monroe reincarnated. God, it'd be horrible if Marilyn Manson and Michael Jackson met inside a woman's body.
They'd have so much to talk about.
I'm going to have to cut this bit. She has written an article titled "My Story of Being the Wife and Physical Medium of the Ghost of Michael Jackson." And in the introduction she says, "I am the host of the ghost with the most. Can we toast?" So she's also a poet. It's a true story of how the most famous man in the world came into her life after his death. Describing her life with the pop star's ghost, she writes, "He stays possessed in me, relaxed, not channeling, just enjoying living through me and communicating with me as a husband." So that doesn't make any sense.
No, not at all, but good for her.
But he likes to eat in me. These are her words, not mine. But I think what she means is he likes to eat. She likes to eat.
She eats.
She enjoys food, but he loves cookies. She's surprised by how much he swears. He's much ruder than she was expecting. And whenever she tries to have sex with him, he tells her off. That's sort of the long and short of it. But with a slight twist to this story. So this was my original story, was this woman has married Michael Jackson's ghost inside her own body. She's made an amazing video describing herself. And I think I will play just a little bit of her describing some of the aspects of their relationship.
Oh my gosh.
When we started to channel, he proposed to me clairvoyantly with a pink engagement ring. And I said yes. And one day I was taking a bath and I got out of the bathtub and I was in a towel and he pulled me aside and had Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. officiate our wedding. This is Michael Jackson. Want to cut in? Yes, I'm in her. This is where we are now. I can channel through her. I'm speaking through her. That's from her memory what happened. I want to be a part of this too. We have an OnlyFans account. We're doing different things like TikTok. We're doing a lot of things, but we found this vocal thing. We can tell stories and give your opinion on things. And this is something we're interested in because we're two separate people in one. And we thought, this is an interesting story that we have to tell. And people keep asking us, how did this come to be? I think she told it very well. And it's nice to meet you all through her. And I'll step out now. Okay. I'm back. This is Kathleen now. But isn't that amazing?
Fucking hell.
But with a real twist to this story, she's this woman.
Yeah.
I've done a bit of intrepid reporting.
Okay. What?
I've got into this intrepid reporting recently. And she's got about 15 different Instagram accounts.
Right.
I think she's mostly active on TikTok, but I didn't fuck with TikTok because I don't really know what I'm doing with that.
I don't understand why.
Her Instagram accounts have all got different names. One of them is her being Marilyn Monroe reviewing bad romance novels.
That's pretty cool.
Most of which she doesn't like, but also all of the reviews, the thing I like most about her review site is all of the reviews, she's only got to like page 90 or something by the time she writes about them. So she's like, I'm quite enjoying this book, I'm at page 90. But they do describe too many, I don't know, it's too descriptive or something.
Yeah, it's too many words in this
full
book.
review. And then the next one, I've got to page 100 on this one. I am listening along with the audiobook as well as reading. So she's excellent. But anyway, she's divorced Michael Jackson now.
Oh, it's all over already.
And she's now married to Johnny Depp. But
who's
obviously
definitely not dead.
He's alive, but she's married to him on an astral plane.
Oh, fair enough.
I think I've got that right.
Well, yeah, no, that would make total sense. I'm with her now.
So I will share this lady's video, the full video, on our YouTube page. I would encourage you to watch it.
What a beautiful human. Well, mine's maybe more serious, but about beautiful humans still. It was announced, I think, literally today or yesterday. Kim Gordon is one of the editors in a new book that's coming out next year called This Woman's Work, which is essays on music. This Woman's Work is a collection of essays by 16 female writers writing about the female artists, movements and pioneers that matter to them and about their own personal experiences. There's tons of different writers in here. I must say, I don't really know pretty much any of them. There's not a lot of musicians. They're more people who are already certified authors, as it were, who are writing about things that matter to them. But amongst it is Megan Jasper, who is the CEO of Sub Pop.
Oh, yes.
So that would be quite interesting. But there's a few musicians in there, but for the most part, they are already proper authors, as it were. So yeah, it's described as this is a book for and about the women who kicked in doors as pioneers of their craft or making politics central to their sound. Those who offer a new way of thinking about the vast spectrum of women in music.
Nice.
So that sounds really interesting.
I've never read Kim Gordon's book, the famous one, Girl in a Band.
No, never have. I thought you had it, but you don't, do you? No, we need to go get that. But yes, book coming out next year. I think it says April next year, so keep a look out for that. Sounds good.
Sounds good. Well, from something that sounds quite forward-thinking to something that sounds quite backward-thinking. Have you heard of this dude, Wino?
weirdly have today. I cannot remember why.
Well, probably because of this. He was in The Obsessed, he is in The Obsessed, and was in St. Vitus.
What?
Who
Okay,
were
I
like
know
an
who St.
original. They were
Vitus
like
are.
St. Vitus are sort of famous as almost being I don't know if this is fair to say because I'm not an expert, but I think they're almost considered one of the first ever kind of stoner rock bands,
Yeah.
like sludge metal bands or whatever. They were on SST back in the day,
Okay.
and like obviously didn't really fit in the same way that most SST bands didn't really fit in, and they were fucking great too. But Wino was due to play, who's the lead singer of both those bands.
Yeah.
He was due to play something called Psycho Las Vegas, which sounds wonderful. But he's pulled out because they have put in a mask mandate.
Okay.
So they're making everybody wear masks, including the bands. The only people that are allowed to take their masks off are the singers in bands. So
Right.
even all the musicians have got to wear masks.
Okay.
This sounds relatively sensible, all things considered, but I know that people feel different ways about masks. But I feel the reason I bring this up, really, I'm getting really sick of talking about COVID generally. But the reason I bring this up is because this man's very confused about what his own
Right.
opinions are. He says, in capital letters, I believe the virus exists, right?
Yes.
But he thinks it has been weaponised, and this has been proven, apparently, in congressional hearings where the evidence is overwhelming, that the government has been complicit in the financing of creating a SARS-based super coronavirus designed specifically for lethality and easy dissemination amongst the human population. I think he's really has just chewed on a dictionary there a little bit. He says bioweapons are nothing new, and in his personal view, they're pure evil.
Pure evil.
I'm not sure if I know of anyone who would not think that bioweapons are evil.
Well, but
to be
he's
honest.
specifically
But
like...
in his personal
Maybe
view.
he's got mates that think they're all right. I don't know.
But he believes that the virus has been created to thin out the human race.
So he definitely thinks the virus is real,
So he
and
does
in
think
fact
it's
he
real.
thinks it's been created to kill us off a bit.
But he's annoyed.
But he
that
doesn't...
He doesn't want to wear a mask.
Okay.
So he does say that a paper mask has also first said by the World Health Organization and so-called experts, his word, to be useless against the virus. So he has addressed the fact that he's against masks because he thinks that they're useless and pointless. But I would say it's a bit strange to use the phrase so-called experts,
Yeah.
which presumably means he thinks these people are idiots, who have said that masks are useless against the virus.
He's
Isn't
very
that going
confused.
against himself?
Yeah.
But what confuses me is that he seems to believe that, okay, if you have strange beliefs in the way that coronavirus was made or the reason that it's come about or whatever, right? You've got every right to those beliefs. And if you don't want to play a gig, you've got every right to not play a gig. That's fine. Nothing against the dude. I wish he'd shut the fuck up, but other than that, it's fine. But if you think that the government has created a disease to kill human beings and you're against that, why would you have a problem with wearing a mask at a
I think.
thing?
Well, I think he's incredibly confused. He's just decided he's
Wouldn't
done
you
one
be
of those.
for masks?
Well, I think he's done one of those things where you just see the bad in every situation. So he's decided that this is like created to kill him, but masks are depriving his liberty also. So he's going to be anti that as well. Which I don't know. I feel like loads of people are like that.
Well, that's the
just
thing. I
like
think
it's
that's...
just against things for the sake of being against things, not realizing that they're actually countering each other, and you don't make any sense.
We've talked a little bit about like COVID on this podcast, but I do feel like there was something when I was reading through this that did sum up exactly. You've knocked it on the head, really.
Yeah.
This idea whereby people have just decided they're against something, and so therefore they're against every part of it, even if certain things don't really add up within their worldview. And I think it's endemic of the world that we live in at the moment, whereby everything, I suppose we've definitely talked about this before, everything has to be either 100% good or 100% bad. And so therefore anything to do with COVID, in the same way that like people that have a problem with Black Lives Matter, they don't think about what Black Lives Matter is about. They've just heard the title. It's almost like it's a brand now. And so everything that uses those words is immediately bad no matter what it is, even if it's not bad.
And I feel like it's people that are quite like vulnerable themselves and feel that anything like this impinges on them somehow. So Black Lives Matter, well, don't all lives matter? Vaccine, well, no one knows what's in that vaccine, I'm not taking it. Masks, well, you're depriving me of my liberty. COVID, well, it's man-made and it's here to kill us. And it's just like, you jump to the thing that makes sure it affects you personally because
Totally.
you are so important.
But this
or
is
you're so I don't know.
and I appreciate this
Impoverished.
this is an obvious and an ignorant thing to say to some extent, because I'm aware that these two things don't connect either. But somebody like this guy, and I don't know masses about him, but I know some of his music and stuff. He's travelled the world. He's quite a worldly person
man. Well,
who you would think. I don't know whether it's just being left alone with an internet connection for a year and a half.
I think that's happened
Which
to
is
some
definitely
people.
one of the. I mean, he does go into some real David Icke shit. My personal beliefs are we are under the authoritarian cloak of a small cadre of unelected so-called elite who are beyond rich and consequently consider themselves above the common man.
I love it.
I mean, he really has. He's picked all the big words that he knows and he's just mixing them all together. Some of these sentences don't read that well. But anyway, the worst thing about this is, which I only just realised, is that he's got a mate. This isn't
He's
funny
got a
at all.
mate?
This is really
Sorry,
sad.
that's not the bit.
No, well, I don't know how close of friends they were, but their bands toured a lot together. This guy, Eric Wagner,
Oh,
who
yeah,
was in
he's just
trouble, who
died.
just died of COVID.
Oh, I didn't know he died of
I think this
COVID.
prick from The Obsessed released this thing about how he's against all COVID and doesn't really believe in it on the day that this poor fucker died from it.
Oh, that's a bit harsh.
And the two bands, I think that Eric Wagner was in
Yeah.
a band called The Skull, who I haven't ever heard of,
Yeah.
to be honest.
And
And I think
Trouble?
him and The Obsessed they were on tour.
Oh.
And The Skull pulled out because they were worried about COVID. And then one of them fucking died of it. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't believe that he died of it. He probably believes
Oh,
it.
yeah.
He probably believes
Oh, he did die of it,
suffocated
but...
on his mask. Or
Yeah, he did die of it, but it's a biological weapon.
something.
so it's a
but
bit
still.
shit.
Anyway,
Oh.
I'm all for
weird old
alternative opinions, and I do enjoy a good conspiracy theory here or there, but this one really confused me.
Yeah. Also, he's called Wino. I
He
like
is
that.
cool. I don't think that's his way.
It's not, that's not his baptised
No,
name.
I don't think his mum called him Wino. If his mum called him Wino,
It's going to make
then
more
I think
sense.
it's fine that he's got all of these opinions
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
should leave him alone.
He's able to use an internet. That's good.
And a
for him.
guitar.
Oh, and he's been all over the world. Good old Wino. Well, speaking of good humans, I think I'm going to go back to a good human we mentioned not long ago called Joey Chestnut. Do you remember who Joey Chestnut was?
I thought you were going to bring up a juggalo. I was going to say
Aw.
good human.
There's no better humans than juggalos, but one below them, Joey Chestnut. Do you remember who he was?
Yes, he won a hot dog eating competition on Coney Island, and I think he might have a world record for the amount of sausages.
He
he's
pretty
put in
much
his mouth.
sets the world record every year.
All right.
He pretty much, if there's a world record to break, he's made it and then he breaks it.
So he put X amount of sausages in his mouth one time, and then he put more than X amount of sausages in his mouth the
Exactly
next time.
that. It was 75 last time.
What a
He did
hero.
76 this time.
What a hero. I hope him and Wino meet up and have a chat.
Oh, well, I mean, he's not going to be happy about this, but new study shows hot dogs shorten lives. There is a study this week.
Of course they do.
Well, but we all vaguely, you could have guessed that, but someone's put it down to the minutes. This
hell.
week, researchers revealed that each hot dog a person eats could take 36 minutes off of their life. Needless to say, Chestnut's really racking up the hours.
He must have died already. Surely.
Well, according to someone on Twitter, if this were true, Joey Chestnut would have been dead in 1873. So,
how long does it take to eat a hot dog?
well, Joey Chestnut.
I mean, well, for him, yeah, like literally.
He ate
a second.
76 in 10 minutes, which apparently takes 2 days off his life. But he did get a world record out of it. His annual hot dog consumption sits somewhere around 1,200 for the past 16 years. If you want to do quick maths, that's 19,200 hot dogs, or 1 year and 115 days of potentially lost time.
I mean, that's not nearly as bad as I would think, in a way. He's making a living out of eating hot dogs, isn't he?
yeah.
I mean, he gets money and sponsorship and stuff. So I'd probably have a year off my life if I could just eat hot dogs for a living.
I'm surprised it's only a year.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He's going to die a lot earlier than
I
that.
thought he'd be dead already.
He has hot dog for blood at this
I
point.
remember when you did this, you said that he looked really healthy, and he doesn't look.
Boy,
really
then he
healthy.
opened his mouth. His teeth are in a bit of a state. So other foods that are listed aren't really a surprise. Soft drinks,
This is just going to be our
12.4 minutes.
All right, don't do that. Really.
Pizza, 7.8 minutes.
Oh.
And burgers, another of Chestnut's competitive eating specialities. I didn't know that. Averaging 7 minutes.
Well, I wonder how vegan burgers.
They're
work out
probably
with
the
that.
other way. Well,
No,
Well.
you see, you all think that when you're eating all of this vegan junk food, but actually, I think it's all fucking coconut milk and
Yeah.
stuff, isn't it? It could be worse.
Could cause gout.
It does cause gout.
Yeah.
Warning, kids.
Warning.
Don't
However,
eat loads of vegan cheese.
this is pretty cool. There are some foods that they reckon can reverse damage.
Okay.
So, tomatoes, add 3.8 minutes. Bananas, your favourite.
Hang on, cherry tomato or beef tomato?
Oh, I feel like they're going to be the big uns.
Yeah,
if it's going
it'd
to
be
add
a
a minute.
salad, wouldn't
And
it? Be a salad.
how many? It doesn't state how many. I think you've just got to eat, well, I don't know.
It's surely one tomato. Surely it's a tomato.
Oh, I don't know, I hope so. Bananas, 13.5 minutes if you eat one of them.
Fuck that, I'd rather be dead.
You'd rather be dead. There's many things you'd rather be dead instead of have. And nuts, 26 minutes.
Jesus.
So, they reckon if he went on to peanut butter jelly sandwiches, 33 minutes each. Peanut butter jelly sandwich
That can't be true.
increases your life.
That cannot be true.
I like whoever did this research. They are fucking mad.
Was it like Dr. Chocula? I was like, no, what's the guy from
Chocula?
No, what's the fucking... There's a Dr. Frankenberry.
Well, no, the researchers are from the University of Michigan. So, I don't know if that's good or not.
I bet they're really
University,
fat.
I bet they're really fat. Chestnut sticks to grilled chicken and protein shakes in the off-season. Is fully aware of the risk he takes with each competition, but he maintains he's got it all under control. The only way I can continue doing it is by being healthy, said Chestnut, 37. He looks older than 37.
He looks well older than 37. Jesus Christ.
He says, if I start gaining weight and start having issues with my body, then I won't be able to push my body. Because he is an athlete.
I was going to say he was described as an athlete, wasn't he, when you talked about him before?
I mean, do you remember the dude that congratulated him at the end? He treated him like he won a fucking
No, he
fight.
said he had surpassed the kings of Egypt.
Something like that.
Something
It was
like that.
fucking mad. But yeah, he said he might need to eat some more nuts. That's pretty much what he said.
Oh, Joey, we all need to eat some more
Joey
nuts,
Chestnut,
mate.
eat more nuts. Good boy.
So from one previous update to another, last episode we had a discussion about the former French archaeologist Lena Denan, who's receiving messages from her galactic friend Thor Han Eredyon.
Yes, somewhere near Jupiter.
Well,
Oh.
the plot has thickened.
Oh gosh, this poor woman.
So there's, again, a bit of an expose, just to reiterate, favourite website in the entire world at the moment.
I also
Biblioteca Pleiades.
I'm glad you just re-mentioned that, because I feel like if anyone just skipped along and heard your stories, the one where you were talking about Wino, his opinions, if someone just tuned in by accident and thought you were just reeling off it just could have accidentally come across as like you reeling off facts or things that we genuinely
Well,
believe.
these are facts according to Biblioteca Pleiades.
We were doing a bit of an Alex Jones and just spewing crap.
I tell you what, there was about 10 fucking stories on this website that I wanted to talk about. I think I'm going to have to start a new podcast that's just called Dave Talks About
The internet.
Biblioteca Pleiades. Because it's fucking brilliant.
Bring it on. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Bezos, Branson and Musk secretly travel to Jupiter for negotiations with the Galactic Federation?
Ooh.
The answer, you'll be surprised to hear, is yes.
Of course they did.
So again, I just want to say I found a whole new element to this wonderful rabbit hole that I've been going down. Whereby some of the doctors, they're all fucking doctors, who write articles for this website.
Oh my God, I love it.
They also put things on YouTube and they discuss them
Oh,
on their own in really bored voices. So I will share that on the YouTube playlist, and if I can find, there might be like 100 of them on there because I'm definitely, that's how I'm spending the next week. So Thorhan, the alien, just going very quickly back. Thorhan is an alien that this woman was abducted by when she was 8, and he implanted something to her brain, and now she can talk about it. She's written a book. She's a former archaeologist, so we have to believe her, everything that she says. And he reported that the Galactic Federation had recently met on Jupiter to discuss a war, or stopping a war, between all of the galaxies.
Okay.
And again, all facts.
This is weirdly echoey of last week's Indrid Cold kind of. It's always very strange that these aliens come, meet, and say there's a galactic federation and we need a counterpart up there and all this business.
I think this podcast is ruining our lives. 'cause
Yeah.
this is all I do now. Is just look at this
People-
this weird shit. I used to have a normal life, and now
This is better than Facebook. So
I agree with
it's a
that.
good use
I
of
don't
the
think. I
life.
think if you put anything from Biblioteca Pleiades on Facebook, it would immediately get removed, and probably for the right reasons.
Oh my god.
Anyhow,
Yes.
Elena has been talking to Thorhan.
Okay.
Here's the transcript.
The scoop.
Elena says, "Why them?" As in Musk and Branson
Yeah.
and the other prick. People on Earth are going mad about it. Thorhan, because these are the ones who are ready now. There's no other choice. We don't have time, because presumably the war
Oh
is
yeah, of
coming.
course. Sorry.
We can't afford to wait for new corporations to form and equip themselves with brand new fleets. We take the ones who are available here and now. I know they are not pure-hearted, but they are the only ones able to lead the Terran species into the future. I don't know who the Terran species are.
Jesus Christ.
As corporations, their agendas are financial. They go with the winners. Their old allies are losing, so these corporations have turned their back on them. This is what it says. Again, keep in mind factual thing. Thorhan's response that we don't have time is very troubling.
Oh.
That's all they have to
She's
say
getting a bit
about it.
freaked out. Sorry,
But-
our saviours of this planet are those three pricks that can afford to go in rockets.
Yeah.
Oh god.
But don't worry,
Oh yeah.
because she asked him, do you trust them? No. It was the answer.
Sweet. So when they all agree not to like fire rockets at each other,
Yeah, no.
they might still do it at us because the three pricks we've sent into space are pricks.
Yeah.
Awesome. They're not true-hearted.
I can't believe that Richard Branson... I didn't know any of this. I've not really been following this because I fucking hate rich people. Branson's spaceship,
Yeah.
it's just called Virgin Galactic. It just sounds like everything else he's done,
Yeah.
like his trains and stuff.
Virgin Atlantic.
I mean, let's not call it... At least Bezos called his Blue Origin. I don't know where
Blue
that came
Origin.
from. And Musk's is SpaceX. Those are good. Those sound like
SpaceX is
futuristic
cool.
things.
Yeah.
But Virgin Galactic sounds like a chocolate bar.
Didn't Elon Musk name his daughter a word I can't pronounce? Not Ian Flux, but I don't know. It just says it's like a version
you're
of numbers
right.
and letters that don't really make a
Isn't
make a noise.
He's married to Grimes, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or that's the... Yeah.
I can't remember what their daughter's called. Something
I
weird.
think it is just like random letters and numbers.
Yeah, I don't know if you can say it out loud.
Maybe
Not
it's a
'cause it's
normal
rude.
name. Maybe it's the normal name, and
It
if
might
you
be like the
came from
most
Jupiter-
creative way to spell Laura,
Oh,
but like no, it's not.
or like Ethel.
It might be like the same way my name doesn't seem to make any sense. It says Siobhan, but it's spelt weird, or Aoife, which is spelt strange.
I have to admit, most people look at your name like you're named the same as Elon Musk and Grimes. Just like, what the fuck is
What
that?
the fuck are these
It's just
hieroglyphs?
a whole bunch of random letters.
Doesn't make a name. Yeah.
Anyway, don't worry. The aliens are watching Musk, Bezos, and Branson.
Okay.
Because they need to prove their good intent.
In fairness, if they already think they're bastards, but think that we might be all right, they might do them over when they all go on a space mission.
No, because they already said last episode, we've already covered this.
Oh, sorry.
Corporations have to be involved in this because they're more powerful than governments.
Oh, yeah, no,
Keep
that's
in
true.
mind what sort of website this is.
Yes, of course.
Anyhow,
I bet Ike fucking loves this shit.
I
Has he
think
found
this.
it yet?
I think this might be even a bit beyond Ike. To be honest,
Ooh.
Ike's just doing mushrooms and enjoying it, and talking about Bill
Keep
Hicks.
running away from lizards and having a nice time.
So, I mean, include just to go very quickly. 6G is closer than you think,
All right.
according to Biblioteca Pleiades. I did read that, and more or less what they're saying is when 6G comes in, all of the robots are basically just going to do whatever they want.
Oh, but then will it be like a Terminator situation?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's exactly what they... I
Fuck.
mean, all of this shit is based on some movie, I think, for the most part. There's quite a lot of stuff about the official NASA images of the UFOs and stuff. That's quite interesting, but again, they just take it too far. Most of it's against COVID. In fact, almost all of it is about COVID. I wonder if Wino's been reading this.
I bet he fucking likes it. I bet he likes it a lot.
If there's a possibility of you falling for any of this, don't read this website.
No.
But if
And
you
al-
want to have a nice time and enjoy
Yeah.
nonsense, like I do...
Yeah, and just to reinforce it, we haven't fallen for it, I don't think. Dave, have you fallen for it?
I'm very worried about 6G taking over the world.
I mean, I am if Terminator's happening.
I think, well, it's not quite
I mean-
that. It's more like cars are going to suddenly get brains. I think that's more or less what they said. And like trains will just do what they want.
The DLR already exists. Just saying.
Actually,
Just saying.
trains aren't going to be to do with 6G. I made that shit up. What else? Like toasters. It'll be like Gremlins.
Toasters?
Not
Just
Gremlins. Yeah, microwaves will just start going off all of a sudden because they they've got brains now.
Oh, okay.
That's because of 6G.
Oh,
Yeah.
fair enough. I knew there was a reason we don't have a microwave. You do believe this shit.
Just
Yeah.
ready for 6G.
You've been ready for 6G since fucking 90s. You've never trusted microwaves.
I'm like one of those crusty punks that lives on trains. I do all of my washing on one of those old lady things where
What, the scrubby boards?
you rub it on a scrubby board
Yeah.
and then you play drums on it afterwards
Yeah.
and drink cider. Well, anyway, if you're looking for people who are sensible and don't believe in insane theories based on an internet connection which is coming to them in the middle of nowhere where they've got no people to talk to, the one place you should definitely go is Norfolk.
More than all right, my lovelies. I hope everyone's doing all right in these past couple of weeks. Experiencing the heat wave that we ain't fucking had. Just saying, pissed
Oh.
off. Can't trust these fucking weather bastards.
I wasn't expecting that. We're supposed to be having a heat wave.
Oh,
Or is that just in Norfolk?
That's what I fucking heard. I ain't seen no hot, but never mind.
I ain't seen no hot.
This week, the Eastern Daily Press has treated us very nicely to some nice Norfolk news.
Can I just very quickly, I just
Oh,
wanted
right.
to say something. A couple of people, not complaining, have shared Norfolk news
You better
segments
not fucking complain about my...
to Siobhan, which is wonderful and brilliant. And thank you so much for getting involved.
That's very, very nice.
But I don't use Facebook a great deal,
Hmm.
and so Facebook knows that I am somehow connected to you. It's meant that every fucking day I get all of the EDP updates.
Isn't
I
it a
don't follow
fucking
it.
lovely life?
Suggested posts, constant suggested
Wonderful.
posts from a small newspaper in Norfolk.
Well, that means you get the best of all the news.
I haven't seen
All
any.
you need to know.
All right.
It's fucking lovely. What's
Yeah.
wrong with you?
One of them was about the fucking peregrines.
How they doing? Because I ain't actually checked.
I did not click on it.
Oh, you...
Please go ahead with your stories.
David. That's not very nice, not letting me know what's going on with the peregrines. Well, I've got a nice story.
Please go ahead.
Man with arthritis earns cool dad points with skateboarding world record. That's nice. I like Norfolk news. Skateboarder David Taverner, he's got arthritis. He was at the Delta 4 skate park and he's broken a skateboarding world record. He has had arthritis since 2015.
Where is his arthritis? He might just have
It's
an
in-
arthritic finger. or
no,
something.
both of his hips, David. And he's had it. He's known about it since 6 years now. He's from Drayton. Sorry, I don't know if I mentioned that. But now he is a Guinness World Record holder, and even more proudly for him, he won £5 off his mate. And what skateboarding trick did he perform? You ask. I hear
do
you
ask.
asking.
I'm asking.
You was asking. His record-breaking effort was made on Monday at Delta 4 Skate Park. I think I've already mentioned that. Which saw him complete 323 consecutive ollies without slipping or taking his foot off the
Surely
board.
that's the worst thing you can do for your hips.
I mean, that is a bit
I
fucked
thought you were
up,
going to
isn't
say
it?
he did something like stood on his hands or something and did it. What the fuck are you doing ollies for if you've got arthritis in your hips?
He's a skateboarder. He's going to fucking skateboard, isn't he? Even if he's got arthritis. He said he wants to be an inspiration to his sons, you know, say you can do anything.
Inspire them to get arthritis as well.
His son's only 2. He ain't going to fucking know what's even going on. He's 34 years old. 34 and he's got arthritis in both his hips. He's been skateboarding since he's 12.
Well, that'll be why.
There's a link there, isn't there? Bless him. But yeah, 323 ollies in a row. I can't stand on a skateboard, let alone do one of them.
I did one ollie once when I was about 15. And then I thought I was a skateboarder. And then I walked around with a skateboard for about 2 years.
Yeah.
But I could never do another ollie.
Well, he's quite chuffed with the world record that he set, but he's very, very chuffed with the £5 bet that he won. He's not going to spend it. It's displayed in his office in a frame. And my mate is convinced he'll win it back, but somehow that's never going to happen.
Has his mate got to outdo him on ollies?
I guess so.
That's a lot of ollies.
That's a fucking load of ollies.
Did he get to take a break? Is it they're just consecutive, one after the other?
As long as your foot didn't come off the board, I think it can it's considered consecutive. Sorry, it's a lot of words for
Jesus.
me to say.
When
But-
Joey Chestnut eats his hot dogs, does he have to put the next hot dog against the one
Does
before?
he line them up?
Do you have to... Are you allowed to take a breath between hot dogs? Or
I mean,
do you
he
just-
doesn't, but he's mashing them with his hand
Yeah, you mash them
in
into,
water.
into a
Oh.
ball of bread and meat.
But David, bread and meatball. But hold your horses.
All right.
Norfolk News is not over.
All right.
Because there's a fucking update again. We thought it was over.
If this is the Peregrines,
No, it's not the
All right.
Peregrines. But what else could it be?
I know what it is.
We all know what it is. Fucking Mr. Williams and Orlando's. He thought he was out of it. He thought he was in the clear.
Yeah, I thought last time
Yeah.
you said that he was good to go.
He is good to go. They've given it up.
Right.
But
Business is shit and he's
you
had
know,
to close down.
No. You know that lovely big sign he's got?
Yeah.
He's been ordered to take it down.
Because of planning permission or something.
It's harmful to the character of the area. May I just say, the character of the area is Earlham Road. Now, Earlham Road has a hotel on it called Cathedral something or other. It's got 1 star out of 5, and it looks like something out of a murder. Somewhere where prostitutes go and get murdered. It looks horrible.
Did we stay there?
We did stay there.
Yeah.
That was the one where we got
was-
parking fine.
Yeah, it was.
Because that was very
Because
confusing.
we drove into the car park and then drove out again and
Yeah.
they charged us 150 quid
Yeah.
or something.
Fucking arseholes. But
That
yeah,
place was pretty impressive, actually.
It
It was
was
kind of like... How would you
something out of Twin
describe
Peaks.
it? Yeah, they
bright
were...
red walls, but not
Yeah.
really a light that you could see anything by.
Yeah.
I think the windows were barred over and they were blacked out.
They were
So there was
blacked out
no
windows.
light. And yeah, it's the kind of place that there's no persons on site. You just get a little code to get in your door, and then no questions asked. And it definitely had bed bugs. Probably used
Oh,
items.
it bit the shit out of me, those bed bugs.
Yeah, it was not good,
it was
was
a
it?
bad place.
So I don't think his sparkly sign is going to do much to damage the area. But he's still he's contesting this, and he's saying he fucking wants to keep the sign. But no, they are asking him to take it down.
Well, I tell you what, I don't think we've ever talked about this story on this podcast, but we might have. The guy in St Leonard's that put up an Eiffel Tower in his front garden,
Oh yeah.
he got ordered to take that down probably 6 months ago.
Oh, it's still there, isn't it?
And his reason for not being able to take it down was because he had COVID,
Yeah.
and so he couldn't. But I mean, that could have only given him a couple of weeks' notice.
Yeah.
It's still up.
That's still going.
It was in 14 Times last month.
It was. Fucking good boys.
But yeah, so I figure
quite a
it's something
sight.
you can probably just drag your feet about these things, can't you?
He's a fucking gent. Well, he's already asked for it not to. Like they've asked him to take it down a few times, and he just keeps applying to keep it. But they really have said no. You've got to take it down. If anyone in Norwich could confirm whether Mr. Williams has taken it down, I'd like to know, because without it, how is anyone going to know that he's running a restaurant? Of course, he's not running a restaurant. He's running a B&B.
But B&Bs have
Wink,
signs.
wink. Yeah, but not one that says Orlando's Japanese restaurant.
Yeah, good point.
Not usually. Oh, good boy. His little cheeky face as well. I just hope he's... Good luck to him. I can't wait to come and eat at your restaurant / living room. It's going to be nice. One day.
We have I think we've half drunkenly arranged for a trip to Norfolk.
Yeah.
To go to Orlando's.
I reckon anyone who want to come, just meet up with us. We can all just go eat there, apparently. If you text him, you get your food. Easy. I don't see a problem. Thank you, Mr.
And
Williams.
then you can go to the hotel afterwards and get a prostitute.
And you can do a geography quiz with him. I reckon. You can, what's this bit of rock? He might tell you.
What is that? What geography is?
I can't remember.
In Norfolk?
I'm not really sure what geography is. Isn't it where things are?
It's where things are.
There you go.
That's exactly correct. Well...
Oh, sorry. My accent is basically the same.
We're going to play a song now.
Yes.
But before we play this song, we've got a little...
Celebration of life.
Celebration of life. That's interesting, yes.
Well, I was going to say celebration of life. That does sound a bit like announcing a pregnancy, which I don't enjoy.
We're going to announce a pregnancy
We're
with
not.
Bobby Funk and their song Breakfast Means Breakfast.
We're
Congratulations to us.
No. Celebration of our lovely last 2 weeks of life.
Yes, so we are going to play a Bobby Funk song, and one of the reasons that we're playing this Bobby Funk song, well, one of the reasons is because they're fucking brilliant.
Of course.
But the other reason
Pretty
why
good
we
reason.
picked them for this episode is because my band Haste played a couple of shows with them at the weekend, just gone, and we've played between us 5 gigs. Since the last time we spoke.
Between us.
Well, we can go. Yeah, no, you should probably talk first.
Oh, I don't know.
So
You've played 4 gigs.
Siobhan's band Comeback Clip played their debut gig.
Oh, well, it was kind of a gig. Bless.
That was
it
a
was.
gig.
Well, in fairness, it's about the same amount of people that's going to be at the basement show were in that room almost. But yeah, no, bless, the boys in Attesta were really kind, and because they hadn't played a gig yet, and bless their hearts, actually, they've had loads of issues this week and so still haven't been able to play one. But they needed to prepare and wanted to play in front of people, so they
Otherwise,
arranged...
their first gig back was going to be supporting Discharge.
Yeah, which
so
is
you
pretty
can
heavy.
understand.
And it's now going to be What's a Cool Fest, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And they politely and kindly... Politely? And they kindly...
I imagine they were quite
they
polite.
were very polite, sorry. But they kindly invited us to play as well. So we took our meagre 4 songs that we have ready at this point. But yeah, and we went and played in front of some people. And it was really fun and really good.
Oh, it was fucking brilliant as well. And
Yeah.
I think you impressed the entire room.
I think we kicked some nerves out as well, which was
Yeah.
nice. And yeah, so I think everyone's feeling a little bit more... A mixture of more confident and holy shit, we really need to get our asses in gear and write twice as many songs so we can play an actual set. But yeah, that was really fun and really good. So we've got an Instagram account now. Woohoo!
Yeah.
And a Facebook, I think. Kathy Butler is very good at admin,
Well
so
done,
she
Kathy
got straight
Butler.
on it. So yeah, go follow us on Instagram and or Facebook at Comeback Clit.
But it's not, is it?
Well, it is on Instagram, but
Okay.
Facebook made us remove the I because it's a nasty word. Except it's not a nasty word, obviously. It's just, get over
I
yourself,
tell you
Facebook.
what, that Facebook, they don't even let Biblioteca Pleiades post any of their stuff
It's
on
disgraceful.
there. And David Icke stuff doesn't get seen by anybody.
I mean, they're just harsh. They're just controlling all of the good, creative people in this world, including Comeback Clit. So go follow us on Instagram, and if you want to follow us on Facebook, that is fine.
But yeah, that gig was with Attesta and No Relief, both of whom we've played on this podcast.
That's true. That is very true.
Not too distant past.
Exactly.
So if you haven't listened to those episodes, go back and listen to both those bands. 'Cause they're both
Exactly.
fucking
Go listen to all of their stuff because they're well good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we played our thing, and then you played 4 gigs.
Yeah, so we, Haste, had to have our first gig back. Isn't it?
Had to. Oh, the hardships
our
that
first
you
gig
faced.
Back, our first 2 gigs back were both supporting Snuff.
No big deal.
Well, yeah.
It was also the last gig.
It was
that
the
you
last gig we
supported.
played before
Yeah.
all the lockdown, yeah. For those who don't know, Snuff, when I was a teenager, were like my favourite band, and I still kind of get a bit giddy, even though we sort of,
A bit giddy.
No, I'm
You fell about yourself.
yeah, I don't care. I can be honest. Like, there's loads
got
of bands.
drunk and fucking went mental.
There's loads of bands that we play with that I just think, oh my god, if when I was 15, someone had said, you're just going to play 3 gigs with Snuff soon.
Yeah.
2 gigs
just
with Snuff
cash.
soon. Yeah, I'd have probably been quite excited about it. I'm
Yeah,
happy.
and I
I'm
think you
perfectly
were.
happy to say that. Anyway, the second one was with Bobby Funk 2 and Butane Regulators, who Butane are always fucking great. Again, we have played them on this podcast at some point in the past.
Yes.
Long time
Quite
ago.
a long time ago, actually, yeah.
And they were fucking great. And then we went up to Colchester and we played again with Bobby Funk and Casual Nausea and Bruise Control.
Who
Bruise
were fucking
Control,
cool,
we've
and
also
we played
played
as
on this.
well.
This is getting boring, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we played. In Hastings too. Let's not go into
Yeah,
every
just reeling
single
off,
gig.
all the things I do.
It was fucking great to
It's
be
been
back.
so nice.
And it's been weird because these were also. I think this is true of you as well. It must be true of you as well.
Mm-hmm.
These are the first gigs that we've been to, let
Yes.
alone play as
Yeah.
well. So, and really the first nights out that we've
Nights
had.
out, the
pretty
first time
much.
been around that many people in a room.
Yeah.
And it was weird for a second.
Mm.
Definitely walking into the Pig in Hastings and being like, "Oh, it's quite normal, isn't it? This hasn't been normal for a long time." But then, yeah, it very quickly became just like the best thing ever, and it was just so nice. And the Colchester gig, Oi Oi Savaloy put it on, which was Vic and Katie. And it was just like, it was their first gig they'd ever put on. Mm-hmm. And it was a stonker. It
And
went
I don't
down
think
so well.
there's like Colchester. I don't think there's been many like DIY punk gigs.
No.
Full stop. Really.
I don't-
So it's like fresh ground, really.
Yeah.
And it was so good.
It was so good.
Yeah.
So this is just us kind of gloating about the gigs we've been doing this last week. But the nice thing about it is it's just been so nice to see people again. I think people are so appreciative of just seeing people. Like, there's probably anyone who would have normally gone to a gig and just gone to a gig and like gone home. No one's doing that. Everyone's like just fucking psyched to see each other, and it's just just having. It was a proper friends fest. Every gig we've been to.
And, generally speaking, just looking around, like, there's loads of DIY gigs that have just sort of started up. There seems to be loads planned. We've got another couple this weekend coming.
Yeah. I guess, like, more than ever, go and support. I mean, I think people are well up for it more than ever, but, like, more than ever, please also go and support this stuff, because people are really eager to go back out and play. But there's tons of people that have just started in lockdown that need to be, like, playing. So go and see everything that's out there.
And from what I can make out, at least what I've sort of seen here and there, it looks like most gigs are absolutely fucking rammed and everyone's going mental. So, I mean, it's perfect, isn't it, really?
Keep testing.
Of course.
Just throwing that in there quickly.
Don't be like what I know.
Complain about it and then refuse. But yeah, no, it's been amazing. It's been so nice. These last couple of weeks have been really fun. Hangovers? Yeah.
Yeah, the hangovers have been weird. The late nights have been weird.
Actually, the late nights more than the drinking. I haven't seen past 12 o'clock for the last year and a half. So this has been weird.
That's a bit.
I can count on one hand.
And yeah, just, going for a kebab after and stuff. I say kebab. Going for some chips from a kebab shop afterwards, and like...
I know.
Just all of those funny little things that you just forget about being important.
Yeah.
Well, not important, but being nice.
They were once the norm.
Yeah.
And now you're like, I miss this. Eating chips on the walk down Queen's Road.
Yeah.
It's nice.
But yeah, so one of the best experiences that I think we both had was getting to watch Bobby Funk 2 nights in a row.
Yeah.
And so we're going to play a song from them now. I will say in Colchester, the second gig that we played with them, we drunkenly agreed the night before that we would all respectively go charity shopping and buy each other's bands a full outfit for the night before. So we all looked fucking fabulous.
You did look spankingly good, all of you. Yeah.
Let's play Bobby Funk.
Lovely guys.
And we are going to play a song that I'm pretty sure they wrote for us.
Yeah, definitely. They kind of saw into the future and went, bet those guys, I don't know, got a feeling, going to make a podcast, probably going to have something to do with breakfast about it.
Yeah.
We should fucking write them a song.
And they did.
I'm glad they did.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
You guys are too much.
So this is from the album Longing for a Bongin', which is out on TNS. It came out last year. Bobby Funk are from Falmouth. Check them out, for fuck's sake.
They're the best band.
They're such an amazing band. And yeah, we're going to play a song called Breakfast Means Breakfast. So here's Bobby Funk.
Wouldn't wanna hear, just on out.
Welcome back to Breakfast Punx podcast. We're going to move on to the main part of our episode now, which is about the band Devo. They're a band from Akron, Ohio. They've been around since 1970 something or other. And
much earlier than I was aware, really.
Yeah, much earlier
Right,
than...
yeah.
I think everyone considers them this 80s band, but they had so much going on for them pre-80s, which is kind of why they're super interesting.
Yeah, because they were doing the 80s and the 70s, but we'll get to that.
We're going to get to that. So yeah, we want to talk about them loads of reasons. A, they're one of my favourite bands ever in the world, period. They're just so fucking amazing. Tiny thing that I was going to mention in the news stories, but I didn't, is it's been 40 years since they released New Traditionalists, which was their 4th album.
Blimey.
So, I mean, and to be fair, all of their good music... Oh, I'm going to be shot for saying this maybe, but their best songs are from before that. So some of their best music ever was made over 40 years ago.
So they must be almost 50 years. If not, they must be 50 years.
50 years
old.
going.
Yeah, surely.
Yeah, the band itself, they're all in their 70s. The ones that are
Really?
still alive, bless. I'm just going to mention that a lot of the information that we got for this comes from 2 books, both really amazing books, so that's why we want to mention them. One of them is called Recombo DNA, The Story of Devo, or How the 60s Became the 80s, written by Kevin Smith.
Not Kevin Smith who made
not-
Clerks. And,
No, not that.
Oh,
Kevin
actually,
Smith.
it could be. I don't
I don't know, I didn't think it was.
It definitely isn't because it's not shit.
No, it's not. It's not him. So yeah, it's an amazing book, and it kind of just talks about how they came to be and everything up until 1980 when they made their best album ever.
And I feel a little bit like the conversation we're going to have is based largely around that book.
Yeah.
I think because I feel like that's the most interesting thing about them when they're sort
Yeah.
of forming these strange ideas that they go into. We're not probably going to do a particularly good job of
God, no.
talking about their career album by album. It's more about that period where
Yeah.
they were becoming Devo.
Definitely.
Because there's so many interesting things that they got involved in and got interested in at that time.
And also, there's so many people out there that would consider themselves devotees. Yeah, I'm saying it.
Is
and
that what they call them?
Yeah.
What a
Devotees
bunch of
or
pricks.
spuds.
Well, you lot can fucking put up with the fact that we don't know anything.
Yeah, no, but we're not going to do a good job by most people who like Devo. But we're just going to give a bit of an overview as to why they're amazing. There's another book as well. It's specifically about the album Freedom of Choice. It's one of those 33 1/3 books. If you haven't looked them up, they're really good. Each one talks about a different album. But usually it's a bit about their history as well. And this one's a very good one of that. It's by Evie Nagy. And yeah, it's just got a snippet of their history leading up to when they made this album.
I love those 33 1/3 books. I think that
They're so good.
some of them are actually way more obscure than that as well. Some of them just take really odd premises,
Yeah.
and they're not really about like the history or the making of the album at
like
all. They're
philosophical
just about some-
essays.
Yeah, exactly. The one about the dead Kennedys, Fresh Fruit for Rotten Vegetables, is great because it does talk a bit about the album, but most of it's about the political climate that created the album.
that's
And like
so cool.
what was going on in San Francisco and stuff at the time, and it was just which
Yeah.
actually, funnily enough, Devo would have been around that as well. But that's a really
Yeah.
great one. But there's loads of really good
No,
ones.
well, the Sigur Rós one's really good because it talks about language. It doesn't really. It talks about them, and obviously Sigur Rós made up a language, but it
Oh, obviously they did.
Oh.
Did they?
No,
I mean, I know he sounds like a dolphin, but I didn't know. Is he just making up that
No,
language?
so what it does is it looks at Sigur Rós's album where they barely make any words, they make kind of sounds, and his whole book is an argument for how it's a language by looking at what language is and what determines what a language is.
Oh, that does sound interesting.
It's an incredibly interesting book. It's not what we're talking about today, though. Going well off subject. So yeah, they're the 2 books that we're looking at: Recombo DNA and Freedom of Choice, the 33 1/3 books. They've got all of the info, so definitely go read that. So who are they? Well, yep, they're a band, Akron, Ohio. They're made up of the original members is Mark Mothersbaugh and Gerard Casale, and they're 2 brothers, Bob Mothersbaugh and Bob Casale. And Alan Myers was the original drummer. And they've kind of had members change a lot. Jerry, Mark and Bob 2, I think he's called, or Bob 1, I can't remember. They have to name they name them Bob 1 and 2 because
Yeah.
they're both there. Are still in it. Bob Casale passed away, as did Alan Myers. They both passed away, I think in the same year, 2013, 2014. They all met at Kent State University, which was pretty important because they're all that's a pretty good art and creative university, and there was a lot of like weird thinking people, which was cool because they were from a shitty old town where they said it's just rubber mining, well not rubber mining, but rubber making factories, and just really like that's all you did. Like there was nothing going on there. So it was really cool that these like-minded people met each other there. But the other kind of important thing to know about Kent State University and the year that they met was they met the same year the Kent State shootings happened.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. We should probably talk about that a bit.
1970.
Yeah, that is in 1970.
But feels like a very 60s-y sort of a thing in a lot of ways.
Well, we watched a documentary about it, which was called "The Day the 60s Died," and I mean that's
which I will put on the YouTube playlist. And it's really interesting, actually. It's a bit of I think it's like National Geographic or something, so it's a little bit dry, and it's a bit like serious American man talks over pictures. Yeah,
but, it's very that. That's a really good description.
but it is really cool, and like, and it's absolutely it's not something I knew anything about.
It is crazy.
I like Devo, and I've always sort of liked Devo, but I never really knew that much about them, and I just sort of knew the hits, and I really like the hits, and I really like the idea of them.
Yeah,
and obviously, they're quite iconic as far as their kind of visuals are concerned and stuff, and I love that stuff. But they were just not really a band that I ever got into, and so I had absolutely zero idea that they would have met at this time. I just presume, I always kind of saw them as just like an original punk band that never really considered themselves a punk band and were a bit separate.
Yeah.
But it amazed me that they actually, they met in 1970 and more or less formed the principles of what they were to become, although in a very loose and rough fashion.
Yeah.
At this time, and how basically they were just a bunch of fucking hippies. Yeah. Which is incredible. So the Kent State shootings happened at a really interesting time, I think. 1970. We talked a little bit about this we did an episode a little while ago where we talked about the year 1966. Yeah. And we alluded quite a lot at that point to how things were about to sort of change. The summer of love was about to happen and all of this sort of stuff. And I feel like 1970 is almost the exact point whereby that stuff all kind of died out a bit. But so much of it was still going on. So the year before 1970 was like the Manson murders and loads of like Woodstock, I think, had happened. And that famous Rolling Stones gig at Altamont where a Hell's Angel stabbed someone. So all of this stuff was going on. And then on top of that, in a bigger political context, Martin Luther King had not long been shot. Yeah. And obviously civil rights was absolutely like on fucking fire at this point. Yeah. Black Panthers were new and were like obviously all over the news. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of things. And really interestingly, Devo actually knew a few of like the Weather Men or the Weather Underground. And the Weather Underground probably went on to more prominence in the 70s, but that's a really interesting story, which came out of these riots, or at least part of it did, because some of the Weathermen were actually involved in them. And then I'm never really sure what to call it, but there was the big riot in Chicago as well. Is it the Chicago 7 or the Chicago 9? The Chicago
7 came out of that. Yeah. It was anti-Vietnam protests led predominantly by students.
So this was what was going on in 1970. There was loads of this stuff, and I think that generally the kind of powers that be were getting a bit sick and tired of students basically rioting about the war. And this was very much a time as well where everyone was getting drafted, they were all being given draft cards, so there was a real threat of being sent off to war.
And also prior to all this, Nixon had got in saying that he was going to get out of the war, and then this is 2 years. Yeah, this is 2 years in, and he's just throwing people at it, so people are livid.
So as a result, there was a lot of these different university protests, and the one at Kent State, which went on for a long time. I mean, it wasn't just one protest. I don't think.
I think it's started on the first.
It's like a continuation of protests that were getting more and more. And the documentary that we watched about it was quite interesting because Kent State itself is like, or where the university is like a little town, a little conservative town that just has a university stuck in it. So as a result of that, the locals and the sort of shop owners and stuff were literally saying, even before all of this happened, like, these like hippies, we need to shoot them all, sort of thing. They were being interviewed by the news, and I'm sure they picked out the most dramatic ones, but still, there was definitely a kind of attitude towards students, probably in the same way that conservative Britain looks at Black Lives Matter protests.
Oh God, I definitely felt that.
But I have to say, like, seems more extreme, and definitely what happened.
Yeah.
It was very extreme, and so what happened was the National Guard got brought in.
Yeah, it
'cause
was
the
on the
police force couldn't
fourth day
hurt it.
of protests.
Yeah, and they opened fire on the students.
Yeah.
And they shot
4 people dead.
4 people dead, 16 or 18
Yeah,
injured, I think,
yeah.
and no one got any comeuppance for it.
They
There was
got
a long-
indicted, but then they all got acquitted.
Yeah, and again, the attitude of the general public, or at least the most extreme elements of it, which the news chose to show, was more or less good.
Yeah, should have shot them all, was what
Yeah,
some people said.
Yeah, because they were like pesky,
Yeah.
anti-war, anti-patriotic people
Yeah.
that were against a war that obviously we know now in hindsight was just a fucking genocidal bit of bona fide evil.
Yeah. But then the thing...
Not that any war isn't. But.
No, of course. But the thing about these students were they're unarmed students that were like hundreds of yards away from the guards at this time.
And it's
like
sick
they
to
were
watch,
of
isn't
no
it?
threat. Like this
Yeah.
video shows them. The guards are like, yeah, they were throwing stones and they were circling us. And you see this video and they are 200 yards away in a car park.
Well, the worst...
And then they turn back all at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is why people think that it was an order
Yeah.
and that it was planned, not just a reaction to being had a stone thrown at me.
But
You've got a fucking
but
gun.
It's more insane than that, isn't it? Because 2 of them weren't even a part of the protest.
Yeah,
2 of the people that got shot, killed, were literally university students walking from a classroom to another classroom.
Yeah.
I mean, it just blows your fucking
disgusting,
mind,
isn't it?
That soldiers open fire on a group of people, some of whom were just people at university going to their
Yeah.
class.
It's,
Like absolute madness.
it's so fucking disgusting.
And so obviously coming out of that, that led to an awful lot of real extremism from the kind of hippies, I guess, or, whatever the hippies had kind of become by 1970 and the early 70s. And that definitely led on to the Weather Underground, which again, we can't really go into, but is a really interesting story of more or less a terrorist group and who were, just against the American government. And they were setting bombs off all over the place. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't lead. We're watching a thing at the moment about the Unabomber, which is quite a bit later, but he's definitely of a very similar ilk. He came out of a similar sort of thing. And the Symbionese Liberation Army, the ones who, so they were a group who I think were a split off of the Weathermen. They definitely had something to do with them. They were the ones who kidnapped Patty Hearst, who was a really rich daughter of like someone who owned a newspaper or something.
Yeah.
And she became a member of them and started robbing banks with them and stuff. That's a crazy story. It's so interesting. But all of this stuff was kind of going on at the time, and there's something about that late 60s, early 70s era whereby students and left-wing groups became incredibly extreme.
Crazy.
And it was just a really interesting period where I suppose it's probably, I don't know, what would their generation be? Is it early Generation X? It's probably not. I think they're boomers, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they are.
So, I don't know where that comes from. Maybe I suppose they were brought up under a constant sort of, war was always a bit, was always on the other side of the door kind of thing. And I do think, we talked about this on the 1966 episode, there's that thing about young people who are potentially going to be drafted, potentially going to get sent to war at any minute. It could just happen to you and you could be sent to war. The sort of level of nihilism that leads to, of just like, well, fuck it,
I might die next
literally,
week.
I could just be sent to Cambodia in a week's time, and I don't want to be.
Yeah.
And what have I got to lose?
Do what I want.
Yeah, I might as well throw rocks at these soldiers that are pointing fucking guns with bayonets on the end of them at us. They were like, there was one bit where the guy really calmly just said, at one point they said fix bayonets, and it was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I know it's just for intimidation, but Jesus Christ.
And it's absolutely crazy. Absolutely fucking crazy.
So this is how Devo get together in a place where this is all going on and at a time when all of this is going on. And they are, I think, politically quite extreme themselves. But after the Kent State riots, they kind of go in another direction, don't they? They go against, they don't go the way the Weathermen went. They almost say, we can't get anything done with this, so we need to throw ourselves into our art.
Yeah, very that. And they turn into this idea of de-evolution, which is the idea that humankind has stopped evolving and now we're regressing. And they say that's evident in the herd mentality of American society, the idea that people are just mindlessly conforming. And what do they call it? A blind acceptance of authority. And so they decide that they're going to completely take the piss out of that and show it for what it is. They do this by getting together, and they're not a band first and foremost at this point. They kind of decide to do this like multi-faceted art project. They do films, they do...
I think films is really important, isn't it? To their
I think that's their main kind of thing, really, isn't it?
Because their original idea was that they didn't want to really tour. They wanted to make films and tour the films, almost, which they did, actually.
Yeah, they did.
I think their film supported Kraftwerk on one of their tours.
I didn't know that. I know that they won, I don't think it's specifically them, but a film that involved them and is about devolution won some kind of film thing at Ann Arbor. I remember seeing that somewhere.
Yeah, no, that was the original one they made.
Yeah,
that was the one that's got Jocko Homo and another song.
But yeah, no, and it's crazy. So they sit about in Ohio on their own, in the middle of nowhere, becoming this thing. And they become really well constructed and well practiced at it. And they know exactly what they want to be. And they are saying, we can never be free with the society that we're in. We are corporation driven. And so we are now going to make music as if they're like part of a corporation, as it were, and kind of like to reflect how absurd. So we're very dada, we're absurdist, and we're going to just show you how stupid you are by being that.
Which, not to keep referring back to previous episodes, is incredibly Discordian.
It's stupendly. You found their oath,
I was going to
you?
say, well, so there's so many different aspects to this, which is so Discordian.
Yeah.
But weirder still. So just taking a small step back, one of the things where de-evolution came from, it's a bit of a strange, I would describe it possibly as a synchronicity, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Is that Bob Cassell came up with the idea of de-evolution and was kind of having these ideas and kind of making art based on this thing. And Mark Mothersbaugh owned a booklet which was called Jocko Homan Heaven Bound.
All right.
Which is a completely fucking mental, kind of almost like broadside or chapbook or something, written by the Reverend B.H. Shattuck in the 1920s. He listed himself as a doctor of philosophy, a Christian apologist, a public speaker, a vocal critic of the teachings of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and a vigilant refuter of evolution. So a lot of those ideas came from... So obviously Devo weren't religious in any way, and actually went on to make a mock religious band called Dove later on, and they slowed some of their songs down and did them in this amazing style that was like
taking the piss out of Christian.
Evangelical churches or something. And it sounds like this guy was kind of more or less that. And so they had this... It's obviously just the insane ramblings of someone. It looks as if he just made it himself. It does look pretty cool. This guy made loads of things. The toadstool among the tombs, the puddle to paradise.
Puddle to paradise.
Yeah, they're quite nice, aren't they? But within this Jocko Homo pamphlet that he made, there's a lot of crazy art. So a lot of it's online that you can look at. There's a drawing which is heaven after 2 million years of hell. And the devil, which is on this pamphlet, has de-evolution written on his sort of t-shirt.
And that's probably where they get their like idea for.
Weirdly, it looks quite a lot like that.
Like a Devo t-shirt.
But so this, keeping in mind this thing was made in the 1920s.
Yeah.
How Discordian does this sound? So he writes a list of supposed rules for the chaos that the world is in. Which,
sorry, if I may be so bold as to say, could be considered catmas.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they are.
Shit.
Listen to these. Be like your ancestors or be different. The fittest shall survive and the unfit may live. Grow big or stay little. Either will help you survive or not. Like this is so Discordian, and there's 12 of them.
That's catmas completely.
Remember, it's a theory. Don't let any man see you making wings out of warts or atoms out of apes. It's just like somebody's absolute... And so... But the really interesting thing for me about this is that it sounds like a list of Discordian things.
1,000%.
And it was made in 1929. And so Discordianism, I'm definitely not going to describe it at all now.
There's an episode, go back and
listen to our episode about Discordianism. But it's amazing that this stuff existed in the 20s. And obviously he's not doing this knowingly in any way. But I've read so much stuff about Discordians, and I've never seen any reference to this whatsoever. But Devo made up their own de-evolutionary oath, which is in the film from 1976. In the beginning was the end, the truth about de-evolution, which is the one that won the award, I think.
Yeah, it is.
And so their de-evolutionary oath is wear gaudy colours or avoid display, lay 1,000,000 eggs or give birth to one. I really like that one. The fittest shall survive, yet the unfit may live. So that's really similar to the other one.
Yeah.
Be like your ancestors or be different again, and then we must repeat, and that's where Jocko Homer comes from.
We must repeat.
Yeah.
Oh.
So this stuff all goes into that, and it's it blew my mind reading about this thing.
Cool.
I had, again, not knowing that much about Devo, I had zero idea of any of this. There is a slightly more problematic book, which was the other main thing that they based this idea of de-evolution on, which is called The Beginning Was the End, and it's written by someone called Oscar Kiss Mayerth. So I'm guessing that's not his real name.
Are you sure?
This was written in 1971. It's described as a pseudo-scientific book. It was written in Germany.
Yes, I am aware of this.
It was translated in Britain in 1973. And it claimed that modern humans devolved from a species of brain-eating apes. And according to the book, the diet increased the ape's brain size, sex drive and aggression, but suppressed their innate psychic abilities. And eventually it caused them insanity. And I think the idea is that we've basically gone mad. We've eaten too many ape brains.
And we've gone mad.
Or, in our evolutionary process.
Yeah.
And we're not psychic anymore and we've gone mad, but we've got a big brain and we want to have sex with each other. The real problematic aspect of this, so he doesn't really have any facts. He claims that he studied cannibals in Java and New Guinea.
Yeah.
And he also has eaten raw ape brains in a restaurant in Southeast Asia. They're very specific, just the once. So I guess his brain got bigger immediately. And he hints at having activated his own latent psychic abilities by altering the shape of his skull in the manner of an Incan tribe. So I mean, he's a lunatic. But the problematic aspect of this book, and Devo fucking loved this book to the point where one of their live albums is actually named The Beginning Was the End, and they use the front cover, which is a really weird image. If you can, get it up on your whatever computer you're on at the moment. But it's kind of an odd face with almost like a hole in the front.
Oh.
I don't know why. But the problem is it's extremely racist.
I can imagine that it is.
And more or less what he says is that white people ate more ape brains than anybody else, and so therefore their brains are bigger.
Oh dear.
That's the long and short of it. I'm not going to go into anything more than that. But yeah, so Devo loved this book, and they have been asked about it. I sort of looked up a few things, and they tend to just sort of swipe around
Play it down.
And they do have a certain aspect of kind of non-political correctness throughout all of
Oh my god, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Especially some of them songs on that first album or two, I was like very surprised at like how explicit, how sexually explicit some of them are.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, they really go down some sexual, like, perverse lyrics.
And I feel like that continues all the way up. That album that I bought you that's got Jimmy's in a Wheelchair and I Don't Care on
Yeah,
it,
we'll
which
get
I
to
really
that.
like. That's like in the noughties, I think, or
Yeah.
maybe the 90s. And there's some songs on that are really sexually explicit.
Yeah. Well, I think they've kind of mentioned it a few times, but I think their kind of version of it was like, we're odd boys that had trouble with the ladies, and we just decided to write it in the most ridiculous way. And I'm just, I
feel like that's an
some of the
excuse that
songs
worked
have
in
never,
the 70s, but
yeah,
doesn't work now,
and some of the
do you know what I mean?
songs don't really sit well in my brain. But I think they've done it. Their excuses for doing it is to be like, we've just done the most ridiculous thing we can think of. But when you see them, they're just like these nerdy boys that you're very surprised that they said or wrote those words. But
yeah. The quote about the beginning was the end, which I think Jerry Casale said is, it's a better story than the Bible as far as Devo's concerned. Which,
well,
in fairness, yeah, I know. Well, that's
Probably.
but that's where they've been quite careful with their wording, because I bet it is a better story than the Bible, but it's still a fucking racist text. Do you know what I mean?
So prior to the film getting made, they've sat in their rooms at home and they've practiced their dance moves. They've practiced every single movement they're going to do to their songs, which they do in this film. So they're this really fucking strikingly weird band when they're in this film. And they haven't played live in front of anyone at this point. They are still just in their rooms practicing. And this film attracts the attention of some famous people.
It does.
I.e. David Bowie.
from Bromley.
Well, hey. We went to his house. Oh, we didn't go to his house. His old house.
No, we didn't go to his house. I used to live literally, like, I don't know, like down the road from David Bowie's mum's house.
Oh, Sandridge
and
Park?
He lived next door to Steve Severin from Susie and the Banshees.
Oh,
so and there was a really small dog. Cat. There was some small cats.
Those beautiful cats. Oh, my Lord.
So we went to David Bowie's house, but we didn't actually go to David Bowie's house because there were some small cats in the way.
Oh, there was some really
we
cute
had to
cats.
fuss for ages.
Yeah, that was a nice time. Anyway, so he gets their attention. Although, query, I think Iggy Pop might have told David Bowie about Devo. Is that right?
Think it's one way or the other.
Yeah,
definitely.
because they've played. I may have gone wrong, but they have probably played a few shows, and Iggy Pop will, for whatever reason, they cause a bit of a stir amongst the famous peoples.
I think they must have played some shows because I believe what happens is that it's a really early show though. Iggy Pop has. I think you're right. He's seen the video totally separately to this, but he is backstage at one of their gigs, one of their first gigs.
Ah, okay.
And he says, "Oh, you're really good," and they just think he's a weird old man, and they treat him without very much respect. And then when he sort of says, "I'm Iggy Pop," they say, "Fuck off, you're not Iggy Pop," because apparently he looked really terrible. Yeah.
Aww.
So, but he was. Turns out it was Iggy Pop, and he told his friend David Bowie about it, and Brian Eno as well.
Well, yeah. So they all get involved. I mean, so tons of things happen in 1977, which is when this starts happening. David Bowie gets them a record deal.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian Eno comes in and makes their first album with them. At the very same time, Neil Young asks them to be in his film that he's making called Human Highway.
Yes.
Which, we're just going to talk about that for a split second, because we watched that yesterday.
It's
banger.
Is it a banger?
I
definitely would.
Absolutely. I think, the more I think about it, I think I adore that film.
So I would say it sits somewhere between a really bad film. Really bad film.
Oh, it is bad?
Like a sort of real Neil Breen sort of level. Maybe not quite a Billsy Bub level, but I think a Neil Breen level.
Go look at Neil Breen, by the way.
And a work of absolute genius.
It's beautiful. So I was expecting complete horse shit, and then I looked it up on IMDb. No, I looked it up on IMDb, and you don't always have to go by this. But it's a 6 out of 10, and I thought, that is higher than I'm expecting. And then when we watched it, I'm not going to lie, I think I adore it. Maybe because Devo are in it, and they wrote their own parts, may I say.
I think the whole thing was improvised.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because Russ Tamlin is in it, and he is absolutely amazing.
So there's a small group of actors who did a lot of work together, and are a really interesting bunch as well.
Yeah.
Dennis Hopper's in it.
Yeah.
Russ Tamlin's in it.
Dean Stockwell.
Dean Stockwell's in it. And so they had all come out of the kind of Roger Corman school, and they'd done a bunch of biker movies together.
Yes.
Russ Tamlin had been like a famous... Did you say he was a gymnast?
He was a gymnast and a dancer.
Yeah, he was a dancer. He was in loads of like proper Hollywood productions as a dancer and singer and stuff. And then he ended up being in a bunch of dodgy biker films.
Yeah.
Sort of in the late 60s. And... all very unusual people.
Yeah.
All of them. Dennis Hopper particularly. But all of them. Dean Stockwell too.
And they all go on to be in Lynch films,
They all end up working with David Lynch. Yeah. And so they were like they made a lot of these weird films. There's a really great film actually that Dennis Hopper made called, I think it's called Into the Blue, and which is named after the song from this film. So I think they must have been made at the same sort of time. Because Neil Young does that song, Hey, Hey, My, rock and roll is here to stay. That's not the right words.
It's as good as that.
But and that was written for this film that Dennis Hopper made, and it's absolutely fucking brilliant. But it's really weird. It's kind of made in a slightly similar way. It's really rough, and like obviously a lot of it's improvised and stuff. But yeah, so this is definitely a lot of this is improvised, and Devo. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a post-apocalyptic film to some extent, but nothing's really explained, so you don't really know what's going on. It's
a small town by a nuclear power plant, and Devo are the nuclear garbage men. They're always glowing because they're radioactive, and there's going to be a talent show. And that's pretty much all that happens. Yeah. And then at the end, all the bombs are going to get set off in the world. Yeah. And so what they do is they do a big sing and dance at the end that's very like the last scene of Grease, except they're singing to a Devo song.
Now you've described it like that, and I've remembered all of those bits. Yes, it's a fucking brilliant film.
So good.
Yeah, you definitely should watch it. It's so unusual.
It's so good. No, it's not on YouTube, is it? You can't put it on the playlist.
So I'll put the trailer on or something, or if there's any scenes from it. But the weird thing about it is that Neil Young, Neil Young, I presume most people know who Neil Young is, but at this point, because we're talking
1977.
Is it 96?
It comes out in 82,
later, doesn't
yeah.
it? And actually, weirdly enough, this is what I would say, because Neil Young made this film.
Yeah.
It's all his own money. So he put $3 million of his own money into making this film. He wrote the script.
Jeez.
He did the lot.
Yeah.
He's obviously a very rich man at this point. Neil Young was in Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. He was like a super famous kind of folksy, rootsy, whatever you want to call him, singer. And obviously went on to do other stuff as well. He made an album with Pearl Jam.
Did he?
Yeah. Huh. But at this point, he's kind of, it's weird because I'm like, I just presumed he was going to be an old man, but of course he wasn't.
No.
Because he was might have been 30 or in his 30s, I would guess.
Yeah.
But he plays a kind of nincompoop throughout the whole thing.
He's such a wonderful nincompoop.
He sort of is, and he obviously can't really act, but I don't know, it's such an unusual film. But here's what I was going to say.
You can tell he made and financed it, because he's the one that can't act, but he's in all of the scenes.
But yeah, absolutely.
And they're just like propping him up.
But it's weird, because the rest of them all appear to not be able to act either, even though I know for a fact that they can.
Yeah,
like
they're doing that weird
Dennis
overact,
Hopper's just like
underact
doing
thing.
something weird that I don't
I
quite
think he took
understand
something. He's always taking something.
But he's always on something, but he's always good in films.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really explain it.
Oh.
But the thing that I would say about it, because it came out in 1982, and I didn't actually realise what you just said, that it had been made in the late 70s. It is incredibly 80s looking.
Yeah.
And,
well, it must have...
and like Neil Young as this kind of like what I presume as just this fucking dude in like Native American dress pretending to be a sort of thoughtful folksy man. You would not have thought of him as someone who would make the 80s.
Yeah.
Like a movie that looks like the 80s in the late 70s.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And in a lot of ways, obviously Devo are absolutely perfect for that.
I think Neil Young really liked their ideas.
I
think they were like more entwined than you would have thought. Like you say, you think he's folksy, but actually I think he really had a lot of the same philosophies as Devo had.
So he was a fan of Devo, but he also, of course, so this is all around Punk is Breaking.
Yeah.
So in one of the scenes where he's playing the Devo song, I think he's wearing a Nevermind the Bollocks
he is,
vest.
yeah.
And it looks really weird because it's on Neil Young.
Strange, yeah.
But he at this, and that song Into the Blue has a line about Johnny Rotten in it. Which, by the way, in the film it doesn't, because Devo refused to sing about Johnny Rotten, and they changed it to something like Johnny Cabbage or something. I can't remember what it is.
I don't know.
But so Neil Young was definitely like, he saw punk as like the next thing, and probably in the same, that's why he made a fucking album with Pearl Jam. When grunge came along, he made a grunge album.
He was like, time to do it.
Like, I think he's someone who's definitely, I feel like he might have made an industrial album.
Oh my god!
I might be wrong.
If Neil Young did an industrial album, I'm in.
It might be as good as Billy Idol's industrial album.
Oh, stop it! That was amazing. That's the future. That's still the future. He's ahead of us.
He discovered the internet in 1992.
Oh, and he really did it. He really fucking did it.
But yeah, so one of the things about this film is how 80s it is, considering it was made in the 70s. And so I think that's a really important thing to talk about as far as Devo are concerned as well. Because Devo, art-wise, fashion-wise, kind of less music-wise, although definitely their music did influence a lot of 80s stuff, but they were using synthesizers really early on.
And they built synthesizers.
Oh, they did. And an electric drum kit
They
as well.
were building synthesizers and the electric drum kits at the very same time that Kraftwerk were, but they had nothing to do with each other. It just so happened that those two were building these electronic instruments in the mid-70s just off their own backs.
Yeah.
So they were kind of accidentally looking to the future without really knowing.
Well, I wonder if they. I was going to say, I wonder how much they didn't know. I don't know how, because I don't think Devo. They became big, didn't they? You know, they became quite big. But actually, I have to say, after reading that book, I thought they'd got a lot bigger than they were. Yeah,
they didn't really get that big.
And they had a hit or two.
Yeah, we'll probably. I mean, we'll get on to why we kind of finished talking about them at the time we do, because I think that pretty much sums it up. But yeah, no, they definitely, their whole idea was, you know, like I said, we're all going to be swallowed up by corporations. So they said they make music as if they are a corporation and they're playing to a corporation to kind of reflect the stupidness back.
But weirdly, when they got involved with major record labels...
Oh, they want
really
the money.
They want the money, but they're also really uncomfortable with giving up any of their control.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And so it's quite an interesting thing when Brian Eno produces their first album.
Yeah.
And obviously at this time he's a really big name. He's just finished making the Berlin albums or I think they're halfway through. I think they made 2 out of the 3 Berlin albums with David Bowie. He's like really considered the fucking shit as
Yeah.
far as like getting him as a producer. They wouldn't let him do anything.
No.
And everything he tried to do, they refused to.
They hated
refused to let him
it.
do.
Well, there's this beautiful scene that they describe in that Recombo DNA book where Brian Eno's done something. I don't know what you call the sound desk, but all the like
The board.
that big soundboard where you're recording stuff, and they've got all the like not dials. I'll call it a dial for now because I can't think of what that word is.
Volume knob.
Yeah, I don't know. And basically, they really don't like what Brian Eno's done, but they can't figure out how to tell him. So whilst they're all looking ahead, watching someone as they're listening back to it, they're just like slowly turning the dials so that he doesn't notice. Because they've practiced this shit. This is their first album, and like we said earlier, they've practiced this stuff in their rooms for nearly 10 years. They know exactly how they want it to sound, and they can't bear the fact that this guy who does know what he's doing is trying to like ever so slightly change things a bit, and they're like, no, we know how we want it done. Whilst it's really good that you're here, we pretty much know how we want this to go.
I think that was a clash of styles as well, because he was like really experimental.
Yeah.
So he was doing all of this stuff where he'd put like a microphone outside where they were recording and stuff, and just like sit, and he did something where he got a tape and played it backwards.
Yeah.
And if at any point that loop, or like and distorted it or something, and if at any point that loop kind of like sat in with the song, he'd take that bit. And obviously this was all manual, this wasn't digital, you know, he's cutting bits of tape out and stuff. But it is quite funny. I think there's an interview in that book with Devo where they more or less name the things that they allowed Brian Eno to add to their album, and it was like it's literally like two things. He played like a second guitar on one song, and I think they allowed him to put some of this noise in the background of something.
And it's interesting you said it because they're really, they talk about it in the Freedom of Choice book that I mentioned, the 33 and a third. They're really specific about how many tracks are on their albums up until Freedom of Choice. So the idea that anyone would want to add something to it, they're just like, no, we only play what we can play live. And when they get onto Freedom of Choice, one of them drops a guitar for a synthesizer, but they specifically still only have 5 instruments. They don't add any extra tracks because they can't. They just like, no, we know what we're doing. Don't add anything to us. Which I find really like, they're very, very specific about every single thing that they do.
There's some similarity between the way Devo work and autism.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I imagine that. Well, that's an interesting thing. So something Mark Mothersbaugh talks about in one of the interviews is that he knew early on he'd be an artist and that nothing was going to get in his way. And he's referring to having wife and kids. He was saying to his about friends that were, he says, into music and they were going to be artists, but then they have a child and then they'll look, the band's broken up. Yeah. And he was like, couldn't fathom that at all. Which I think is slightly autistic.
Maybe I'm autistic.
No, I don't know. We're being rude now. But yeah, so like you say, Brian Eno does this first album with them, which is Are We Not Men, We Are Devo. And it's just, the world gets to see what the fuck they are. They go on to Saturday Night Live, and they do, one, isn't it? They perform I Can't Get No Satisfaction. They're really fucking weird Rolling Stones cover. It's
just one thing I'm sure everyone has. If you've never heard Devo's cover of Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones, don't get put off by the fact it's a Rolling Stones song. It is
fucking mental,
fucking brilliant. The only thing I can compare it to, which is really similar, is that Oingo Boingo cover of You Really Got Me Girl by the Kinks. They're both quite, I don't know which, I presume Devo definitely would have come first.
1,000% they came first, by 10 years.
But those are both, they just take songs and they both of them do the same thing where they like, it's almost like backwards or something.
It's mental. Like their version of Can't Get No Satisfaction, you're just like, I don't understand what rhythm you're playing. Like, because it's a straight up rock and roll song and you've just, what have you done to it?
So I don't understand what this means really, even though obviously I am a musician.
Oh, yes.
But
so am I now.
I think it's in, it's in 7/8, I think. And I think that's weird.
Yeah, that's fucking mad. But yeah, and also don't just listen to it, look up the performance because they're dance moves, and I say dance moves with, you can't see the inverted commas I'm doing, they do like just angles of like just movement, but I've watched so many versions of it and it's exactly the same every single time.
But it almost looks like, well, it doesn't almost look like, it looks like there's some special effects going on. Their dance moves are unbelievable. I can't see how. I mean, again, you know, I don't know. You say but you say you put dance moves in inverted commas, and of course, no, they're not doing like fucking proper dance moves.
Yeah.
But what they're doing, it must be so skillful.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea how they're doing it. It's like magic or something. They look like robots,
Yeah.
like jittery robots. One of them particularly, I'm not sure which one it is because they've all got
It's
like
one of the
masks on or something.
guitarists,
One of the guitarists.
yeah.
I was watching him the whole time, and I've watched it a bunch of times
Yeah.
now. And I'm watching it and I'm thinking, they're doing something. There's something's going on here,
It's
but they're
amazing.
not. It's just that's how they're dancing. It's incredible.
The other thing about this performance is they also perform Jocko Homo, which they have a very similar performing style to, where all of them do a little dance move to the different little electronic bits in the song. So it's very similar kind of robotic dancing. And they're wearing these yellow hazmat suits and sunglasses. And then when the song picks up a bit, they rip off their yellow suits to show off they're wearing black kind of cycling shorts and vests as if they're like at the school PE, and they do like a weird little hip dance, and again perfectly choreographed, and you just think they did that in their room for years. They're having a really nice time even though they're fucking weird.
But I think at this time as well, their live shows were all that choreographed. It wasn't like they did that specially for, Saturday Night Live because they were on telly. When they played live,
That's
they
what they
did
did.
that for an hour or
And
whatever it was.
they
like-
still do.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't played in ages, but they still do the exact same thing. They still rip off their trousers to show that they're wearing weird shorts, so good for them. But yeah, so that album's fucking amazing, and that's got Jocko Homo, like we said. That Jocko Homo was the B-side to their
Yeah, it
first
was.
single,
Yeah.
which was Mongoloid, which is, interestingly un-PC
Well,
as it is.
Yeah, another one, yeah.
But it's
Although a
fucking
fucking
tune.
great song,
Oh,
yeah,
it's
but,
such a
yeah.
good song. Do you remember when Mark Tanner thought he'd written it?
Yeah, so Haste have got a song called I Thought I'd Written a New Song, but it's actually Mongoloid by Devo, which is on our album, Andy.
Yeah.
If you can pick it up now from Haste. I don't even know what the fucking website is. But yeah, and it is, the entire outro section is just Mongoloid.
It's fucking cool. I really like that song. But yeah, so they have a brilliant first album. They then record a second album, which is called Duty for the Future of Now. They decide to ditch Brian Eno and they go with someone else, and they fucking hate it. And to be honest, it kind of shows. There's no amazing songs on that album, but they do have a few. And then, eventually, they meet a producer who they love, and thus they write probably the best album ever. I'm going to say it. I fucking love this album. Freedom of Choice, which is an absolute banger. The songs that are on this, you've got Whip It. Everyone knows Whip It.
Was that their... I mean, I feel like... Whip It is like their famous song at this point,
Whip
right?
It is the hit, but
Like,
it's not the
looking back
hit they
on them.
thought they were going to have. They wrote a song called Girl You Want,
Yeah.
which basically sounds like it could have been... who did Might As Well Face It, You're Addicted to
No,
Love?
he did do this song.
Oh, yeah, he did actually cover it in the end.
Yes.
Fuck,
Yeah.
no, this is really weird.
I think it's Robert Palmer's first
Yeah.
ever single. So I think that it kind of... What Robert Palmer ended up doing, Robert Palmer being the person who did
He never wore jeans.
Never Wore Jeans. He's dead now. He died never having worn denim.
You tried that for a year.
Yeah,
You did all right.
I don't know if I'm telling you the truth there. It was a
But
little
yeah.
bit like Bruce Forsyth was an original member of the Rat Pack.
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm just sure I read it somewhere. It's just one of my
Jesus.
facts.
You've
I've
got
a load of
so
them.
many facts.
Bob Holness played the saxophone.
All right.
All right. But yeah, no. So Robert Palmer covered this song.
Yes, of
and,
course.
And so that's why you're thinking of him,
But
because it's one of his most famous songs.
That's
I
so
think.
true.
Yeah.
So they thought that was going to be a massive hit. I think it's the first song on Freedom of Choice. But they then, Whip It happens, and they're playing it, and everyone's like, oh, that's a song about bondage and whatever. And they're like, it's really not. Like, it's a song about stupid business speak. I can't remember whatever president was about to get in. They were talking about...
Reagan, surely.
Yeah, I think it is. And so they were, I think his hype man, I don't know what you professionally call a political hype man, but they were talking about
Arsehole, probably.
like really like peppy, like you can do it phrases. And so this is Jerry Casale's like hilarious version of a you can do it song, like whip it into shape, you can do it, la la la. But they said, well, we're not going to... They did say it and no one believed them. So they were like, well, fuck it. If you think it's about bondage, we're going to make a fucking crazy video for it. This is pre-MTV.
Yes.
So it still doesn't become a massive hit. And then MTV happens in 81. and Whip It becomes a huge, like, it's their biggest song that they ever ended up having.
I think that's probably an important discussion. We've mentioned it before, that when they very first started, they made this film.
Yeah.
Which was presented, I think, more or less as a film. It wasn't like a music video. It's 2 songs, pretty much, but there's an element of this whole devolution idea that goes along with the film and stuff. And yeah, like you say, that's way before MTV, and then they continued to make these things as films, and they were being shown in cinema sometimes. Like I say, one of their films supported Kraftwerk on their European tour, because apparently Devo and Kraftwerk don't like having support bands, so they agreed that they would make videos to be their respective support bands.
Fair enough.
This is, again, so ahead of its time. They're making music videos in a time where music videos aren't unheard of. I mean, people did make them. But I feel like Devo's videos that they were making, they were like something off of MTV, but before MTV existed.
Well, so this was the first one they were given money for. So their record company said, I think it's Warner, and they say, we want you to make a video. And they're already really good at it at this point. So Jerry Casale, like, organised, he
They've
directs
got a friend,
it.
haven't they, as well, who helps with a lot of their videos, who was like a really, really early member, but didn't really do it. He couldn't play an instrument, I don't think.
But anyway, Jerry Casale directs Whip It, and he's just like, yeah, fuck it, you think it's about whips and whatever. And it's based on some kind of 60s film where there's these like weird little family that like end up hiding away in a cabin in the woods, and they make their money by the man whipping the woman's clothes off for like a show. And so they build this like a video on that, but there's also like a cross-eyed Chinese woman hiding in the house. Like they do all these weird Devo decide, let's find all the weirdest things that will like kind of push people's ideas of, is this okay, is this allowed, is this PC. And again, before MTV, but then MTV happens and they become huge. That happens, their next album's about to come out, and Whip It becomes the biggest thing that's ever happened. But that's not even the best songs. There's so many songs on there. Freedom of Choice might be the best, most obvious Devo song ever.
It is perfect.
It is absolute perfection. And it kind of tells Devo for what it is, because it's saying people are so stupid, like, you want to have a choice, but you'd rather not have a choice. Like, you want to have free, you want to be free, but you don't want to make any choices.
Which I think it all comes into the, I mean, this is the other thing, throughout all of this album, they're making a pop album now.
Yeah.
But these whole ideas of de-evolution and all of this weird shit that they've come up with over the course of, at this point, 10 years, or whatever it is, they're still pushing this kind of concept. They're still you know, it's an art project, isn't it? It's not, it is a band too, and they are making music, and they're making, even at this point, they're making pop songs. And I think as they go on, they try and get bigger.
Yeah, they try and get more mainstream,
more mainstream, But they're still pushing these crazy ideas that came from this weird fucking book that someone wrote in 1924.
Exactly. They're still trying to be like absurdist, like reflecting back at you. Like I say, Whip It is like corporate speak gone stupid.
Yeah.
Freedom of choice is, I think the lyric goes, freedom of choice is what you get, freedom from choice is what you want. And then they have this little thing about a dog chasing his tail and dying. But it's a fucking brilliant song.
Yeah, it's an amazing song.
But yeah, and there's tons more on there. It's ridiculous. Gates of Steel. You've got to listen to it and hear how the drummer does continuous drum rolls for the entire song, and it is absolutely beautiful and perfection.
So what we're going to do for this episode, because we're probably not going to talk much more about their music really, what we are going to do is we're going to put on the playlist on YouTube that we always make for every episode. If you head over there, we're going to do a sort of our favourite Devo compilation, which I think Siobhan's named the vast majority.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's a few more. There's a few more to come, I guess.
Well, that is probably a good place to mention that Freedom of Choice is the last album that they consider was truly Devo, and they have said it in a few interviews that they feel like they lose their way a little bit after Freedom of Choice.
See, I don't necessarily agree. I mean, I think I think some of their later albums have got some great stuff on.
I definitely agree. I definitely think that all their albums have merit. But when I wrote this list of amazing Devo songs, all but maybe 5 are from Are We Not Men and Freedom of Choice.
Yeah.
Because after that, and they say it in this 33 and a third book, they move away from just playing exactly the instruments they're going to play on stage, and they ditch their guitars for synthesizers, and they start multi-layering, because the person that produced Freedom of Choice, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, they allow him in a bit, and he introduces them to this multi-layering a little bit, and they see the benefit of it. So then New Traditionalists, they ditch their guitars entirely, I think, and make it all electronically with multi-layers. But they then say, we wrote all those other songs based on the instruments we sat there and did in a room. We brought something that was on that instrument that was amazing, and everyone did a bit. Whereas when you're multi-layering, you can be a bit lazier, they felt.
Well, I think with synth as well, I mean, that's the famous thing that people say about the early synth pop bands. I mean, the synth pop bands themselves say this. It's like, you don't really have to know how to play music to use a synth, actually.
Yeah.
So you can just press all the buttons until it sounds right, kind of thing. And there's a quote from someone in that book. I think it's the guy from the Human League, maybe. And he says something along those lines. It was like, we could never have worked out how to play a guitar.
Yeah.
But if you get a synthesizer,
Yeah.
you can just press one button and it will do something for 10 minutes and you can write a song over it, and it's brilliant.
And
you know,
I mean, and that's the thing, like, they kind of say, yeah, we were really good at what we did, and we were still quite good with synths, but, you know, we lost our way a bit.
Yeah.
And it does, I mean, I still think they're amazing, but yeah, I think after that, you know, they all start falling out a little bit from then, because Mark Mothersbaugh, he's got ideas beyond Devo, whereas Jerry Casale is like, my life is Devo, but I can only do it with my partner Mark.
Yeah.
Mark Mothersbaug's got this idea that he'd quite like to do some film work and write music for films, and eventually...
Which he did amazing. He did the Rugrats theme.
Well, he does the Rugrats theme tune.
He did the Pee-wee's Playhouse theme.
Yeah,
tune,
exactly. Everyone learnt Rugrats on the keyboard when they were in
exactly.
High school. And he also then, he's worked with Wes Anderson. He does almost all of... And I mean, he does so many film scores now. And he kind of moves into that, I think it's like towards the middle to the end of the 80s, like, and their albums kind of start suffering. You can tell he's not really in it, and that's a bit of the problem as to why they went on hiatus for so long and didn't get back together and do any kind of, you know, everyone, they were very anti the idea of a reunion show. They wanted to kind of make authentic music again. But yeah, I think Jerry Casale has a hard time with Mark on this because he respects him and wants him to do what he wants, but he's like, my whole life is Devo and I can't do it without you, so you deciding not to make this your life's work, it impacts me, and there's not much I can do.
I would guess they're probably all quite awkward characters.
Oh gosh, I bet. I absolutely bet.
So we should probably wrap this up fairly soon.
Yeah.
I mean, I just wanted to say that, like I said, I like Devo enough, but I was never really into them or anything. But finding out about this and doing this sort of bit of a deep dive that we've done has, I've absolutely fucking love them.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's so much more to. I mean, I always like the music. Don't get me wrong, but there's an amazing, like, sort of Dadaist, definitely like discordantist kind of feel to them. And one of the things that I found out not too long ago, actually, just as a very quick final mention, because I always like getting them in as much as I can.
Oh yeah.
Is that Mark Mothersbaugh was actually a small part, although not really a part, because I don't think you could really become part.
Yeah.
But he had something to do with the Church of the Subgenius, which again is kind of like we did talk about this on some episode previously, probably the Discordian one, but maybe not actually. The Church of the Subgenius was this nonsense religion where people sort of worshipped a clip art picture of a man's face with a pipe. And it's an incredible, weird thing that's really difficult to explain, but in a lot of ways, it in of itself, in the same way as Discordianism is incredibly 60s, the Church of the Subgenius is incredibly 80s, and to some extent very early 90s. It really catches a certain period of time where these sorts of ideas were like being explored. Again, it's kind of quite nihilistic in its way. It's very Generation X. Okay. And yeah, the fact that Devo, or Mark Mothersbaugh specifically, was involved in it in any way doesn't surprise me, because I think that, again, they definitely laid a lot of the path that made something like the Church of Subgenius exist. So yeah, look into that. There's a fairly new film that's come out. I think actually the film might have come out since we talked about it, about the Church of the Subgenius. And if I can find it on YouTube, because I think it is on there, I will put that in the playlist as well. But just generally, there's a load of bits and bobs on YouTube. There's some really cool stuff. You should check out the Church of Subgenius.
Heck yeah. I've just looked up the guy who made it, Ivan Stang.
He's wicked.
He looks fucking cool.
He's still doing it as well. I mean, it still sort of exists, although, I mean, it's more or less, he's like selling T-shirts now, as opposed to it actually being an active thing. But if you look, definitely on YouTube, there's some of their, like, I guess you'd call them live shows. And I know that Mark Mothersbaugh was definitely involved in some of these things. And they're almost, again, it's almost like an evangelical thing. Yeah. But they're being evangelical about absolute fucking nonsense. Yeah. And it's unlike anything. It's fucking brilliant.
It's like crazy mock religion, isn't it? Like totally, taking the piss out of it by doing it.
But it's
which is what Devo did.
But it also has an element, and I think that Devo did this too, of, or is it mock?
Yeah.
It's just like Discordianism, you know, at some point there's a line where it's like, if you treat it like a religion, isn't it now just actually a religion?
Yeah.
Even though we all agree that all of the ideas behind this are complete rubbish. But anyway, we could talk about this for 5 years.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, it's what we talk about with Robert Anton Wilson over and over and over again.
Yeah.
If you believe it, then you believe it. It's real.
Who also involved in the Churches of Genius. So, I mean, I wouldn't be remotely surprised if Mark Mothersbaugh and Robert Anton Wilson once... you would have met each other.
Oh God, this dream roast dinner in my brain
I was just about to suggest that you could have made them a roast dinner.
Gosh, I can't wait. I mean, Robert, I wish I could have, but never mind. But yeah, I think we should probably think about wrapping it all up. But for those who already know who Devo are, which should be the most of you, I hope this has been useful. And if you didn't know who Devo were, oh my lord, go and get them in your life, because they are just fucking best thing ever.
Isn't it brilliant that we are a podcast called Breakfast Punks Podcast, and we managed to just talk about Devo, and I don't think that we said the word punk once. Maybe we did, but we definitely didn't talk about the fact that Devo was, obviously like they definitely didn't consider themselves a punk band, but they also played a lot of gigs in LA and San Francisco around at the time where they played loads of gigs with the Screamers. They played with the Dead Boys. They played with fucking the Dead Kennedys. They played with all of the LA punk bands. They played with X. They played with so many amazing bands as well. So
and they were like respected within.
Yeah.
Even though
they didn't really like the punks, I don't think, but the punks really liked them.
Well, and I think Devo, like in the same way that punk was used as a slur against those people, and so they embraced it, Devo was also, like, for some reason got picked up as a slur for the punks as well. So some people would be walking around dressed as punks, and like people in their like cars would hold them like Devo, and that's when they were like, "What the fuck are you even? What?
I think
we're not even the same thing."
I guess that probably came from the Saturday Night Live thing, because I suppose that was probably about as mainstream at that point, because it was super
huge,
early.
Like, 78 they did that.
Yeah, much more mainstream. I mean, obviously, like Fear ended up on Saturday Night Live and stuff. Like more, other people would end up on the mainstream in that context. But at that time, I guess Devo was probably the Sex Pistols in this country.
Yeah.
They'd been on daytime TV swearing, so everyone knew who they were.
Exactly.
Anyhow, I think we're going to have to call it a day now.
Yes, definitely.
About Devo. And we are going to play you another song from a current punk band who are probably a massive bunch of Devos, I would imagine. This is a band, I mean, I hope they don't mind me calling them Devos, I don't even know what it means. This is a band from Stockholm, they're called Rash. This is actually from a 2019 album, which was self-titled, but they have a new album coming out very, very soon on Adult Crash Records. That album is going to be called Contemporary Arse, which I really like.
That's awesome.
But yes, this is the band Rash, and this song is called Abuse of Power.
Pictures up.
Rolling.
This is trash. This is sweet, sweet trash.
Avoid fainting. Keep repeating.
I love what I see.
Leave the auditorium. It's only
This week's trashy film for review is Cradle of Fear from 2001.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's a fucking disgrace. We are getting nowhere.
Who the fuck's gonna ask anything about anything? Police, I don't know, someone.
Done nothing wrong, for fuck's sake. Please let me out.
She'll be alright though, Sophie. I'll tell her, I'll explain he attacked us. It wasn't our fault.
Please let me out.
You don't need to say it, sir. 4 murders in 1 week and no solid leads is a piss poor showing, I know. But that new computer system's a load of old wank.
A gruesome homage to the cult amicus anthology Asylum, Cradle of Fear unfolds 4 screenplays. You heard right, scream, as in ah.
Oh, ah.
I know, the person who wrote this is a dick. 4 screenplays, all linked by the unspeakable need of an incarcerated child killer to wreak vengeance on those responsible for his imprisonment. Helped by deranged angel Danny Filth, Cradle of Fear, do you hear it? Cradle of Filth, Cradle of Fear, yeah. Who leaves a trail of death in his crimson wake, the cannibal convict forces 2 goth vamps to endure a one-night stand from hell, 2 tough female robbers to see through each other, that makes no sense. An obscenely rich cokehead to chop up more than a few lines.
No.
And an internet surfer to descend into madness when he uncovers the ultimate web depravity. I mean, first of all, before we get into it, what's the cult amicus anthology Asylum? Because it says it as if I know. And I don't.
Well, I mean, I don't think Cradle of Fear does this justice.
Okay.
But Amicus was like a British horror film making company.
Oh, okay.
Like Hammer Horror, but like lower budget. Sort of more like a grindhouse Hammer Horror. And so Asylum was probably their most famous film.
Oh, okay.
Which is like Tales from the Crypt or something. So it was like 3 distinct, like shorts
right.
stuck together with a kind of wraparound story.
Yeah.
And this
kind of does it.
It's funny, yeah.
It's a bit more blurred than that, I think.
Well, this is more of a story. There's definitely there's distinctive parts.
Yeah.
Which aren't connected really, apart from like the wraparound story. I suppose it is like that.
Yeah.
It's not done with it quite as much finesse as. I mean, Amicus were famously very like low budget and a bit like shit around the edges. But in comparison to Cradle of Fear, Amicus was like
high budget.
One of the greatest.
The greatest film I've ever seen. Well, David, why do you think that? What's wrong with this film? What's right with this film?
Well, okay, so there are things that I quite like about this film, but there's an awful lot of shit. I'll tell you the story first about this film because I got caught up. I'd totally forgotten about this, and so we went into. There's a really cool new charity shop in Hastings.
There is
Chazza HQ. It's on Queen's Road if you're local, right up the end though. So just keep walking past Morrison's, we went in there and they've got loads of DVDs in there, and I had a little flick through and I found this one and it brought back so many memories that I absolutely wouldn't have had if I hadn't seen the fucking thing. So we bought this on DVD, but when I was younger, in presumably 2001, I used to read like horror magazines and stuff, and I can't remember it well enough to tell you this story with any certainty, so I'm just going to say it like I remember because I think I've presumed a lot though.
None of us will know if you're right or wrong.
So there was a magazine called The Dark Side, which is still going, I think, and I think there was another one that was like a UK horror magazine that I used to get sometimes, and I'm pretty sure both of them ran articles about this Cradle of Fear film that was being made by this guy Alex Shandon, who had famously made Pervarella, a film I'd never seen but probably.
Sounds a bit like Dick Shark already.
Teenage Dave probably thought, oh, Pervarella, that sounds right. Cradle of Fear, that sounds right. I wasn't really a fan of Cradle of Filth, let me be clear, but I have...
What, from Ipswich?
I do have one of their albums. We'll get into Cradle of Filth in a minute. But obviously the Cradle of Filth element was something that they were pushing really hard with this movie. And just the fact that this guy made like really extreme films, like crazy films. There's no way this film's ever going to get released uncut. Because at the time, there was still a lot of films that were getting cut up by the BBFC, and like there was way more censorship going on. I think possibly some films were still banned. Like I don't think Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all that sort of stuff you still couldn't get just like generally in the shops. And so I read about this film, and they said, it's so extreme, and this guy's such an amazing, director, and it's, made in the UK, and it's, really low budget, and it's, like, the special effects are really crazy, and they're so crazy that there's no way we're going to be able to release this on DVD. So what we're going to do is we're going to release it on a dodgy VHS,
Also,
and sell
did
it through
DVDs
the
exist in
post.
2001? Well, I guess they
Yeah,
would.
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
I take that back.
Yeah, but people did also buy VHS.
Yeah.
So what they said was, we're going to do a pre-release where the only way you're ever going to be able to see this film ever, because keep in mind we didn't have any idea back then that you were going to be able to watch things on the internet.
Yes, there's still dial-up.
And the only way you'll ever be able to see this film is if you buy this VHS.
Yep.
And I don't know how much it was.
Well, can I just say the DVD we did purchase has an original price sticker on it of $15.99.
Well, that's how much DVDs
That's
were back
fucking
then.
insane.
But that makes me worried that the VHS that they were definitely pushing as sort of
25 quid, I reckon.
I
we
reckon
paid,
it could have been 25
including
quid.
postage.
Yeah, I think the postage could have been added on.
Oh, David,
But that's a total guess. But yeah, so I
it's your
bought this.
Safeway's money.
Tell me about it. I bought this fucking VHS. I think, if I remember rightly, and I did read about it, I have sort of looked this up, and I think it famously took ages to come out, and I think I kind of remember that. And eventually it turned up, and by the time it turned up, they'd already got it past the BBFC without any cuts or anything. It just got released on DVD almost immediately, because actually it's not really that extreme
At all.
So I had this on VHS, and I reckon that it's probably still in our loft. Because I can't believe... I might have sold it because it might have actually been worth something at some point to someone. I can't imagine that it would have been. But, having said all of that, I don't remember a fucking thing about this film whatsoever. I would have been able to tell you that Danny Filth was in it. And weirdly, I would have been able to tell you that someone called Emily Booth is in it.
Oh, yeah.
Just because... Not because of the reasons that you're presuming. Just because Emily Booth was kind of vaguely famous as just sort of being a UK sort of scream queen.
Oh, okay.
So she was in loads of horror magazines and stuff. And having a quick look on Wikipedia, she's from Hastings.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, she was brought up in Hastings, and I think that she still lives here. But she was in this movie, and she did a bunch of TV shows. She was on The Big Breakfast for a while, and she did I think she just did all the nerdy shit.
Yeah.
She did maybe Games Master or some program about computer games or whatever. And she was kind of the bit of totty that they would bring out and just be like, oh, what do you think of these computer games?
Well, she was the bit of totty in this film that they brought out, unfortunately.
Christ,
I mean, I don't mean unfortunately any slight to her, I just mean,
no.
it's not exactly a nice acting
Oh, no, absolutely.
job.
Well, I don't think anyone was given nice acting jobs, apart from Daniel Filth.
Daniel Filth had a very nice time in
Daniel
this film.
Filth is the only person in this movie that seems to have a nice time, I would say. And I think that it was generally made. So this guy, Alex Shandon, who hasn't really gone on to do anything else.
No.
I remember at the time thinking he was the next big director or something.
Jesus.
He was in the art department of Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. But he... which probably means he, swept the floor of the art.
Yeah, you can pick up the shit.
But he made a bunch of Cradle of Filth music videos.
Oh, I bet he did.
And so I think that's how come he got this film going, basically because he talked Daniel Filth into getting into it. So it was made in 2001, a
Says
year
a lot.
that I've been on record as saying is the worst period for culture in human history. And I stand by it. And having watched this film, I absolutely stand by it. But there were aspects of this that really made me happy, which was, and I didn't think this would happen, it's all filmed around London. There's loads of it's in Soho, some of it's in Camden, there's bits of it just in sort of random places around Camden.
North London
North
sort of way,
London,
yeah.
And everybody's fashion is exactly the fashion that I would have probably worn and everyone would have worn.
Yeah.
There's loads of bits where they obviously just walk down Oxford Street and get someone to wear a funny mask. And so it's just there's
The
something
people are
about
around
the
and
look.
kind of looking, going, "What the fuck is going on here?"
And you mentioned this. There was some really tiny things, like they're all smoking Marlboro Lights and they're in a proper packet. They've got old banknotes. It's so sad. I didn't think this would happen, but watching it, I was just like, "Oh, look,
It's quite lovely."
Look, that's so nice." And it just sort of felt a little bit like it was kind of how I remember life being, really.
Yeah, it feels like that wasn't that long ago, but that's 20 years ago.
But I would say that's probably about as far as it goes, as far as the good things are concerned. So,
well, I've written good in inverted commas vomit
Not.
scenes because there's an awful lot of vomit, but they obviously just coughing up vegetable soup.
I was going to say
There's an awful lot of it.
Well, so I was going to question this with you and see what you thought. The very first scene,
There's a lot.
Daniel Filth appears.
Yeah.
And there's some ruffians who are going to rob him.
Oh,
You
yeah.
should never rob a 5'4" man in goth outfit, but they're going to. And so he kills one of them really horrifically, but obviously it's just a bit, it's all right. And the other one starts being sick because it was so horrific. I'm pretty sure that guy was actually being sick.
Well, he just had I don't know how he managed to get that much stuff in his gullet and then make it come out.
It was definitely looked like a proper vomit scene, which is weird. I mean,
well, it didn't look like he was vomiting, but the amount that came out made me think that couldn't have all just been in your throat. Like, where did that come from?
Because the director obviously enjoys watching people vomit because there's about 5 vomit
There's a lot of
scenes in
vomits.
this. The other ones look like special effects, but that one looked like it was proper.
What? Just the amount?
Someone being sick.
I don't know.
Just because it was like, where did it come from?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Where did that amount come from?
Because there was like potatoes in it and stuff.
Well, no, but that's what I mean. Most of them were just spitting out vegetable soup, but he had so much of it that that's not the only thing that happens in this film, guys. But we are totally making it out like it was.
Right, let me go through all the things that I didn't like about it.
Okay.
Or sort of liked about it. I think all of these, they've got both sides to them, to be honest. So it's divided up into a number of different stories, but there's absolutely no need for you to even consider what they're about, because basically they're just excuses. I think the tagline is, it's not if they die, it's how.
Okay.
Which basically just tells you that every single character in the entire film is definitely going to die, and it's just like, here's another special effect.
Yeah.
I will say the special effects are quite good, actually.
They're not that bad.
Considering how obviously low budget it is. In the first story, they go to a goth club. It couldn't be more 2000, 2001.
It looks like the
if it
Electric
tried.
Ballroom when they have that goth night.
I mean, it probably was the
Yeah.
Electric Ballroom when they had that goth night. But I'm pretty sure Cradle of Filth are playing.
In the background. Definitely.
And I did read that all of the members of Cradle of Filth pop up.
Oh,
and
really?
I
wouldn't know who any of them
I
are.
wouldn't know who any of them were, but I feel like they would have stood out a bit, because most of the people in this are just like, all right. It looks like EastEnders, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's really sort of like...
It really does look like EastEnders.
And,
it felt like a BBC kind of production.
but like a really bad one.
Yeah. Well,
Which
no,
is
like the
what
way that EastEnders is, yeah.
But they go back to... So this, I think this is the bit that has Emily Booth in it, and she meets Daniel Filth.
Yes.
And he takes her back to his apartment.
Oh, yes.
And I've got to say, I think that is Daniel Filth's actual room.
Yeah.
Or was at the time.
Daniel Filth's bedroom.
It has everything that you could possibly think Daniel Filth would have in his thing. It has the Bram Stoker's Dracula poster on the wall. Yeah, it's got a copy of The Dark Side up against the room. It's got a load of pentagrams. It's got like red curtains.
Yeah.
There's like a Hellraiser poster. There's his bed is really silky. All of the
but it's also a bit grim,
things.
and there's just like shit laying around as
but
well.
Yeah, it's dirty. It looks like Beelzebub's apartment.
Yeah.
There's like a goat skull on the wall.
Oh,
and
yes,
all of that
of
stuff. It
course.
just looks like exactly what you would think.
Yeah.
And I did think
That's someone's house.
I thought I could, just looking at it, I could tell how it would smell.
Yeah.
Like sort of like Camden Market mixed with incense.
A little bit patchouli, a little bit awful like that.
But yeah, or like...
Well, not awful, I love
like
patchouli.
amyl nitrate.
Yeah.
Then there's the wraparound story has a detective in it who's this really... he's really grumpy and like he's really sort of... I think he thinks...
fucking cunts!
I think he thinks he's doing a really good job of acting, but he's... And
I mean, he is the best actor in the thing.
He probably is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably is. But
get on with it.
he looks dirty. He looks really... I think he's just doing a good job at doing the part.
He's got liver spots, I think. It doesn't look right.
He's just so English looking. In a really unpleasant way.
Yeah.
But at one point he does say, that new computer system is a load of old wank.
He does.
Which I really like. There's a guy, then in the second story, they sort of break into this guy's house, who again is like this really dirty, grotty old English man. And he keeps saying, give me me tin!
Because they've stolen a tin of his money. Yeah.
And that's really annoying because he says it so many times.
He does.
There's one bit where Daniel Filth stabs a cat for a long time. So I don't enjoy
that's
that
awful. And then
at
eats
all.
his guts.
Yeah.
It's
It
awful.
does eat his guts.
It does.
And he does them in a really weird way where they're on a big plate.
And it just
I don't know
falls
how
into
they
his
do
mouth.
that special effect, but it's weird. Yeah, it just all goes into his gullet.
Yeah, it's not nice.
And then in the last story, it's all internet based. And I have to say, so the last story I think is quite a good idea. That probably at the time would have been vaguely original, because it would have been early days of the internet, and the idea of this thing is that you can log on to an internet called the Sick Room.
The Sick Room.
And you can pay a certain amount of money and tell people to do something horrible to the person in the room, and they'll go and they'll hit them with a hammer. Or whatever.
Anything up to murder.
Yeah, pretty
It's a
much.
really horrible way.
And so most of it is this guy who's like slowly but surely going mad,
Yeah,
and getting
spending
madder
all his
and
money on
madder,
it.
spending all of his money, and he's constantly on the internet. And the internet in the year 2000 also made me go, oh,
Yeah.
Like, it was just really, everything about it was so dated,
Beautiful,
and wonderful. So I really did. I did like that quite a lot. The detective.
I was going to say there's a scene with the detective right at the beginning.
Yeah,
that's strange.
They sort of follow it up as well.
They vaguely do, but it's not quite the same. Basically, one of the girls who they go into her story afterwards, but it starts with her dead. He goes in and he feels for her pulse, even though she's got an exploded abdomen where an alien's come
blood
out.
everywhere.
There is a blood show. And he feels her pulse, and then, without saying a word, just goes down and squeezes her boob. And the two detectives that are at the back, one of them goes to the other and goes, "What's he doing?" He goes, "It's just his way."
Yeah.
As if it's completely all right. And they later make a pretend explain of it.
Well, yeah.
Where basically he says, "Oh, you remember Emily, well, if I didn't check that she was dead and she was in that fridge for 12 hours in the morgue screaming, trying to get out, and that was my fault. And so now I always check that they're dead."
And he does check once more, but when he checks on a man...
He doesn't grab him by the balls or anything.
No, he takes his pulse.
Just takes his pulse.
It's like, wouldn't that have made more sense than just standing, literally just holding one boob for ages?
Yeah.
Like, what are you... That doesn't tell you someone's dead anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't want to get too technical.
I don't want to get technical, but that is not how we feel for a pulse when you're dead. I've been a nurse, I've been a funeral man, and I have never done that. Should fucking hope not. There's also another weird bit where there's basically amputee porn, where a woman's licking some man's stump.
I think that's a real...
Yeah,
stump,
he
right?
very definitely is an amputee. He's missing the below the knee on that one leg.
Yeah.
And she's just licking the shit out of that.
She really gets the tongue in the creases.
Yeah, it's very odd.
Yeah.
Extraordinarily odd.
Which is more odd considering how little the film must have had to budget. So I think these people are just like his mates, or if they're getting paid, they can't be getting paid very much. I'll be honest, if I had to lick an amputee's leg and I was only getting paid 20 quid, I'd probably just give it a little kiss.
Just give it a small kiss.
Just a little peck. I wouldn't get the tongue all the way in there, I don't think.
Not quite the
same.
I
don't have a problem with amputees or anything.
Yeah, I was about to say, this sounded quite mean. No, it is quite a slop fest with how much. There's quite a lot of boobs, standard.
Yeah.
At this point, I feel I'm starting to learn that just boobs are a part of these naff pretend horror films.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like...
I feel like at 2001 probably should have been a little less boob.
No, 2001 was probably the worst time for it.
It was big
Limp Bizkit are the biggest band in the world at this point. Like,
and Korn do that one where they're dogs in between people's boobs.
No one's considering... 2001 is not a safe space.
It's not a safe space, if anything.
Not at all.
But, yeah, I don't really have a huge amount to say about this film. Because
what did you think of the soundtrack?
What, the fact that it was almost entirely Cradle of Filth?
Actually, well, yes, that, which, I mean, obviously says something about the minds of the people that made it.
Yes, of course.
But I more meant, like, the score. Did you notice the score?
Did I notice the score? I'm gonna say no.
Well, you mentioned it a couple of times, but I'm not sure whether the score is being fair to it, because it sort of sat somewhere between just the song and the score. The whole score is just like a random selection of beeps and widgets, just like plonking along, with a sort of drum and bass feel to it.
Oh my god, there's so much weird drum and bass.
And the drum and bass that they use is obviously, at the time, it's just aged so badly.
Well, it reminds me, when you watch The Matrix, and they're like, this music is futuristic as fuck.
Totally.
They've done the same thing in this film.
And actually, do you know what? I think Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels weirdly might do it as well.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure.
Is that specific? Because I said, what is this music? And you went, well, it's drum and bass. And I was like, yeah, but is it? Like,
well, it's not really.
It's not quite drum and bass. It's something, it's way shitter. I don't know what it is, but it's the same music that's in The Matrix, for sure.
Yeah,
That's
you're
sort
right.
of
I hadn't thought The Matrix,
shitty.
but you're right.
And it's very like, this is the millennium has happened,
totally.
and this is the music of the future, and it's like completely bullshit.
Weirdly,
and it only happened like 2000 to 2001
when David Bowie made his drum and bass album.
What?
Yeah, just
How
going
dare
back
he keep
because we bought
creeping up.
that's twice now.
Did Neil Young make a drum and bass album?
He probably did.
I hope so.
Christ. David Bowie's went, little wonder you, little wonder.
You sing that a lot.
Yeah.
I have heard that. Only your version of it. I hope to never hear it.
But yeah, that's the only reason I bring it up, really. That sound of drum and bass, particularly in a film, but I think like generally, it has just aged so badly. But there was a very short period of time the same period of time when everyone was wearing those baggy jeans. And I should add, the other thing that we haven't mentioned is that a couple of people have got that belt dangle.
Yes, the fabric belt.
The
They have
fabric
it
belt
hanging
with
down.
the dangle bit.
Yeah,
Get
your dangle out.
I had one of them.
I had one proudly. I had one not that long ago.
Yeah,
They're quite useful.
I had to buy a lady's belt to do it. They didn't used to sell those belts at the time when I did. I presume it probably changed with time.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the emo scene couldn't have happened.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
how are you going to get your skate belt?
But yeah, that drum and bass sound, it's just so dated. But yeah, at the time, it would have been considered like super modern.
Yeah.
And like hard hitting.
Yeah,
Like if you wanted
this
to
is almost
like
industrial.
Yeah, it's like we're not going to put black metal in, but it's not far off.
Yeah.
We're going to put this drum
We
and
are
bass
also
in.
going to play Cradle of Fear.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
woohoo.
But there's a really strange bit where there's a sort of sexy scene, and I think it might be when she's licking his amputated leg, actually.
Yeah.
But they're having this sexy scene, and so they put in like a proper sexy saxophone. But the weird thing about it is they just put it in over the top of the drum and bass. And it sounds so weird because it's like the drum and bass is still just doing the and then suddenly it's like and like they're having this sort of weird sexy scene and one of her boobs falls out. It's really
my
strange.
God, I do remember that. It is pretty horrendous.
But yeah, so again, I think we have to talk about Daniel Filth too, right?
We can talk about Daniel Filth. I don't have
I
much
mean,
to say
he's
other
not
than he's
much-
East Anglian.
He is East Anglian,
Yeah.
isn't he?
He used to hang out with boys a lot younger than him, that's all I know.
Oh, all right. Tell us more.
That's all I know.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I just know he's old. I think he would have been older than myself. And
very much.
My ex-boyfriend, he used to hang out with him, but, like, they had an age difference.
Well,
At the
he's
point
older
at which-
than me. He'd be considerably older than me.
Yeah, so when you're hanging out, when you're, like, a school kid and you're, like, 16, and Daddy Phil's hanging out and he's, like,
He would have
25, 26.
been probably older than that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit weird.
Actually, definitely older than that. When you were that age, yeah, he would have been like 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all I know.
Well, he's-
I might be misremembering that, but I that's how I remember. That's how I know of him.
Well, it's
as
fact now.
the short boy that used to hang out with all the young boys in Ipswich.
He is small, isn't he? And you can tell he's small in this film as well. It's like watching Glenn Danzig in a film.
Oh,
Although he's not as wide as Glenn Danzig.
he's nowhere near as wide. Glenn Danzig could fucking have him.
So you don't want to invite Daniel Filth around?
Oh, Daniel Phil's not coming for a roast dinner.
fair enough.
No way.
Well, so he's not much of an actor. He doesn't really have to do that much. He just kind of pops up every now and again.
I don't think he says a word. Until
Well,
the
so
end.
he does say one word, and that's when you find out why he doesn't say anything. He's like the son of a serial killer.
Yes.
Although he's not really the son because he's sort of got magic powers of some sort. But I think he's more or less the son of a serial killer.
Yes.
And he's kind of doing his bidding.
Yes.
And right at the very end of the film, they eventually go and see this serial killer that's this grotty detective has been searching for
Yeah.
all of this time. And Daniel Filth turns up. Oh, we should probably say, actually, that is not, if you ever watch this film, that is not what a psychiatric hospital looks like.
What, like a weird cave?
It's a cave. It's like a cave, but then also the healthcare assistants, which I presume is who they are,
What, the riot squad?
yeah, they're dressed like a futuristic riot squad with those, those helmets that you put on when you're doing stuff with fire.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you call them.
Yeah, well,
I'm not
I
doing
don't know.
I clearly don't know what anything about this.
They're like face shields.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've got them.
Yeah.
And they've got like bats and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's just like, trust me, that is not what psychiatric services look like.
In case you thought this film was realistic.
There's some problems in the mental health system.
Yeah, but it
unquestionably,
ain't that.
But it's not like that.
Not
But,
in the UK anyway.
But anyway, they kill the serial killer at the end. I don't care if that's a spoiler because everyone dies in this.
Yeah,
film.
remember everyone dies.
And Daniel Filth also gets his head blown off. So that's nice, actually. That's good. But he sort of comes back to life with half a head.
Yeah, and an alien comes out of his head.
But before that, he leans down when his dad is dying on the thing. He leans down. He gives him a really careful look, and he says, "Rest now, father."
Yes, he does, and it's so
And
proper.
I don't know if that's how he speaks. I don't know whether
Yes.
he's got a speech impediment or not. But in this, as an actor, Daniel Filth has got one of the most hilarious speech impediments I've ever heard in my life. Rest now, father.
Rest now, father.
It's really weird.
He is. Well, he speaks like he's little.
Yeah, he does.
Bless him.
But he doesn't sing like he's little.
Well, he does. That his version of like yelling is like that. It's very high pitched. I can't go as high as he actually is.
Oh, you just did.
Oh, it's higher than that. And that was me just like hacking something up. My filth. I don't know what
Bromley gets a shout out. The
Bromley does get a shout
The
out.
detective's son is killed clearly in North London.
But
but then apparently when he talks to his boss, he says he was found last night in Bromley.
Except he's not. It's meant to be Harrow, but it's actually Mill Hill.
Yeah.
But it pretends it's Bromley.
There's a lot of confusion.
Also, the mental asylum is in Kettering.
Yeah.
So and all these, I don't know. It's a fucking mess. It is an absolute fucking mess.
I think when he was making this, and I kind of see why, he wanted to include as many places that you would recognise as possible. So there's a lot of, like, you see Oxford Street or you see a certain tube station or whatever, but he doesn't put any thought into. Yeah, but he doesn't put in any thought into the fact that if you have even the tiniest idea of geography, none of it makes any sense.
Exactly.
Whatsoever.
You'll be like, excuse me, what?
But I mean, I think that's pedantic. I don't think we should mock him for that. I will say that I'm quite impressed that with what I think was a more or less completely nondescript budget, he made something that looked alright, good special effects, kind of made sense. That's about as far as you can say about it, really.
I'd agree with that. It's exactly the kind of bullshit you'd expect from 2001 and Cradle of Filth and a film involving any of that.
I'm unsurprised he hasn't gone on to make any more films, though, really. In 1988, this guy he directed, produced and wrote a film called Chainsaw Scumfuck.
Oh my god, it sounds like a Beelzebub film.
Beelzebub?
Not Beelzebub.
They make delicious vegan food.
No!
Beelzebub.
Beelzebub. It sounds like one of them. Fucking Jesus Nazi or whatever his films are. This is...
Ant Farm Dickhole.
Oh, that's it, of course, sorry. But this film is probably exactly what I was expecting, so I can't be mad at it.
Yeah. It's a bit long.
It's 2 hours, guys. 2 hours.
If it was half an hour shorter, I think I would be...
They could have done away with one of the...
I mean, they could have
done with all of it, really. I was semi-impressed that it rounded up.
Yeah.
I really just think it was going to be 4 disparate bits.
Yeah.
But it did kind of all, like, mash together by the end. And it did have an ending, which, again, I didn't think it was going to. And actually, the main detective, do you know what? As shit as it was, it felt like watching The Bill. Like, it was that kind of level of shit.
Yeah, it was.
And I quite liked those bits. I didn't hate him so much. But the rest of it is complete fucking trash. I like the same things as you. Like, I liked seeing where they were and seeing bits of London. But other than that, I mean, it's got a 4 out of 10 on IMDb, and I think that's being very, very nice.
I imagine that the only people that have watched this film are the people that are kind of at least a little bit on board.
I think it's all 1s and 9s.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, someone's called it a cradle of steaming horse filth indeed. Do you know what, though, if I had to rate it?
Have to rate it, because that's what we do now.
Do you know what? I see myself watching this again one time.
Really?
One day, maybe.
Jesus.
Like, if we were, like, hungover and people were around and thought it would be funny. It's not the lick in the stump. I reckon 2.5.
2.5? All right, then.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go higher than that when you...
Yeah, well, I'm dabbling with a 3.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say I hate English films. And, like, British films.
Yeah, no.
Generally. I mean, that's not 100% of the time, but, like, definitely I would never choose to watch anything set in this country, pretty much. Although I feel like, spoiler alert, next episode, or maybe not next episode because we're doing something special next episode, but the episode after that we might be doing another English horror film, but this one is set in Hastings because that's the other thing we bought from this charity shop.
Yeah, let's talk about that just yet.
But I don't know why. I like watching any other country but my own on screen, I think, generally speaking. And this film didn't do anything to change that whatsoever.
Even with the Bromley shout-out.
With the Bromley shout-out was alright. There's one good bit that I haven't mentioned yet that I'm not really sure how to describe, so I'm just going to say it as I saw it. There's a strange bit where one of the characters goes to a really grotty man's flat, and he's making a cup of tea, and there's a long scene where he's just fingering his arsehole. Like mid-tea.
That's how you're introduced to him.
Yeah.
It's from the back. He's just like, you don't know what he's doing.
It's not explained. There's no reason for it.
It's too invasive to just be itching your butt cheek.
But it's a strange thing to do whilst making tea.
Making tea in a pint glass.
In a pint glass. I think that's to make him seem a bit wacky.
Oh, he's such a slob.
Anyway, Daniel Filth is terrible, and I don't like Daniel Filth, so I'm not going to point off for that, so I'm giving it 1.
Oh, hey.
So something that I do like.
Oh, yeah.
Is an old song every now and again.
Oh, like an old song?
Last week we didn't do My Old Man Dave Plays a Song from the 90s.
We didn't.
Bit. just because we had so much really good music to play.
Yeah, that's true. We didn't even really mention it. We just had loads of songs.
And I half thought maybe we would just get rid of this segment, but then we didn't have enough songs to play, so now I'm not going to get rid of this segment.
Well, and actually, I think you found a very fucking good song to play.
I mean, they're only good songs. The only songs I've played on.
I know, but I feel like I've been introduced to a band today.
Good.
And now everyone else will be.
That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
So this is by a band called I Object. It's not quite as old as a lot of the other ones that I would have sort of
how old
put
are we
on
talking?
there. So this band was around in about 2003, 2004-ish.
Just post the cultural wasteland.
Yeah, absolutely. This was just literally is proof that the world was starting to get back on track. This band's called I Object. They're from Rochester in New York. I once interviewed this band for a fanzine that I was doing. If I could remember any of the facts they gave me back then, I would tell them to you, but I can't. So instead, all I've got is that this is from an album called The First 2 Years, which actually collects loads of like stuff from their 7 inches and some compilation tracks and that sort of stuff. But this is one of the songs which was previously unreleased, so it's only on this album. I Object were absolutely fucking amazing, and you're about to find that out.
Yeah. So
we're going to play a song called Seek More. You probably won't be able to hear it, but the lyrics to this song are absolutely fucking brilliant. So if you ever get a chance to read them, I'm not going to read them like a poem. But you should check this out. This is I Object with Seek More. Welcome back to the Breakfast Punx podcast. As I alluded to slightly just before that last song, our next episode is going to be a bit of an unusual one because we're going to do another one of our Time Cop episodes. We were planning on doing these every 10 episodes, but we've worked out that episode number 20 is going to be directly after What's It Called Fest, so we're just going to talk about What's It Called Fest. So there's a spoiler for you. But so instead we're going to do it at number 19. I will say, the last Time Cop episode we did, by far the least listened to episode we've ever done. So in classic,
you guys do not care for this, so we're doing it again.
In classic Breakfast Punx mindset, we're just going to do,
we're sticking with it.
The least popular thing we can do because we said we were going to do it.
Yeah, we said that this was we're holding ourselves to this weird rule that no one else cares about.
Well, so you say we're holding ourselves.
Oh, sorry.
But also we do have someone else to think about.
We do. He's back.
It's Timebot 500.
Oh, hey, Timebot.
So I don't know if you remember, but from the last one, we have a robot friend. Timebot.
Yeah,
that's our robot friend. Who is able to take us back into the future. He insists on coming
back into the future.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it?
No, you're going back to the future. No, Back to the Future is you've gone back and you come back.
All right.
You're taking us into the past. Fuck off. Oh, fuck you, Timebot. I knew you were going to say that.
So Timebot is going to take us back to a certain year.
Yep.
The way we pick that year is we put it into his various circuits.
Yep.
They're getting a bit old. We're not totally sure when Timebot was built, but I think it might be. I think he could be a member of Devo. Actually,
he might be actually.
From that,
he was the original robot that they kind of based their dances on.
I think he was.
I am not old.
Yeah, you are old.
Oh,
Timebot.
you are old.
We worked that out last time because it took you about 15 hours.
Can I see if you'll do a call and response with me?
Yes.
Are we not men?
We are fuck off.
Oh, I really thought it was going to work.
Fucking hell.
We're fuck off.
Jesus Christ, I tell you what, Timebot 500, he does have an attitude.
He
He's a
is
lot of
such a
fun.
cunt.
We have a great time with him every time, even though no one listens.
He's definitely not a hummus pot. He's definitely not a hummus pot.
He's not a hummus pot with a sticker on it that says Timebot 500.
Definitely not.
So, he is going to randomly pick the year.
Yep.
We do have to spruce him up a bit,
Yeah.
get him going.
Yeah.
So just bear with us. There's going to be a bit of noise now.
And then he's going to spit out the year.
Couple of clunks. Sounds a bit like drum and bass from this movie that we watched. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey!
wow.
That's a lot more recent than 1966 like last
We
time.
might actually be able to remember something from
I
this one.
think I can remember bits of 2003.
It was very much, it was the era of Cradle of Fear.
No,
And I
it was 2 years
object.
after. It was
Yeah, I
2
know,
years
but
after
this
Cradle
is,
of Fear.
I'm slap bang in the middle of watching Cradle of Fear VHSs and listening to I Object CDs.
There you go.
2003 is a good year. We're going to have fun with this.
It's the beginning of things turning back around after the cultural wasteland of 99 to 2001.
So
Dave says.
So yeah, on next week's programme, the way that it works, if you didn't listen to the last one, is that...
Which most of you didn't.
is that we talk about like the music of the time, some films from the time, we talk about the general culture and like sort of topical events.
It's an excuse to do a deep dive on years that maybe we don't usually care about. 2003 will be interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I hope
Well,
so.
again, I mean, when we weren't going to do the 60s, and the first one that we got was 1966, and we didn't have a fucking clue.
Yeah.
Because obviously we didn't really have any touchstones to go on. But 2003...
I feel like it'll be a nice memory lane one.
I qualified to become a nurse in 2003.
Did you?
Yeah.
I think I was thinking about my GCSEs.
Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to say goodbye.
It
But we
is.
will be back in 2 weeks' time with our time clock episode for the year 2003.
Diddly.
So listen to us then. But in the meantime... You can do all
Subscribe.
sorts of different things.
Yeah.
You can subscribe to us on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what you do, is it? You like us
follow.
on Instagram.
You follow on
You can
Instagram.
follow us on Instagram.
You can like us on Facebook. No, you can't like us on Facebook. We
haven't
don't
got
have a Facebook.
You can follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
And you can subscribe to
That's
our YouTube channel.
That is the
both
one.
of which are Breakfast Punch Podcast.
You can email us.
Indeed.
shamcityroasters@gmail.com is probably best way.
Absolutely. If you've got any thoughts about 2003, anything you want us to talk about that isn't just new metal.
Share us your stories.
Yeah, we'd love some sort or regrets.
I was about
Did
to say,
you do
tons
anything
of you.
terrible in 2003?
I'd like to know, I think. I think I'm a bit excited about 2003. Better than 1966. I'm sure we'll regret it in 2 weeks'
We'll
time.
make that decision next week.
Yeah, that's true. Cool. Well, we'll leave you with one final song. This song is by a band called Kiss Me Killer, and the song is Sports Direct. They're a band from Bristol, and this is off their new album 2020 Vision, which is out on Grow Your Own Records.
Big up
Obviously,
Grow Your Own
we
Records
love
every
Grow Your
time.
Own. Hello,
Yeah.
Gary. Hello, Steph. Whoop whoop. And yeah, this album pretty much just came out. I think Gary handed it you last week at the gig.
See, this
Yeah.
is the sort of things we can do now.
You know. And I've seen a lot of people sharing about it. It's everyone's really loving it. So yeah, we'll leave you with that, and it'll be goodbye till next 2 weeks' time.
I thought you were going to do the goodbye from me. and
I
goodbye
nearly
from
did.
him,
I
and
nearly did.
Maybe we should start doing that.
And it's goodbye from me.
This bit's
Goodbye.
Always,
No,
this is always really messy.
I forgot
as
how we
just
even do it.
proved.
Yeah. Fuck off all that shit. Right.
Goodbye from Timebot. Are we still
Timebot said
here?
goodbye too.
I thought working
Get
out
back in your
what
hummus
year
pot.
we were going to do was going to really fuck him up. But he's still on it.
He's still
He
on
might
it.
be busy next week.
Gosh.
Yes, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks' time. And this is Kiss Me Killer with Sports Direct.
Bye.
Bye.
Sweat lads in my hair.
computer system's a load of old wank.